back to order. Welcome back, everybody. We have a time certain for this next item, so we will move forward with item 8.6, which are actions related to the affordable housing siting policy. And we'll then go to the remaining two items, both affordable housing projects that require approval. So thanks everyone for your patience. Jackie, take it away.
Great, thank you. We do have a presentation, and while we're waiting for that to get teed up, good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm pleased to be here tonight to present the affordable housing siting policy. And that is not it. That is not our affordable housing.
That is a presentation that's been submitted by members of the public. We have a separate presentation from staff.
All right, so I am joined tonight by Rachel Vanderveen, who is our Deputy Director with the Housing Department, Dan Rinsler and Lindsay Rosenfeld from the California Housing Partnership are also here tonight, who were our consultants on this project. And as we wait for the presentation to come up, I just wanted to share a personal story regarding how important where you grow up and in what area you live in has an impact in your life. I am the daughter of Colombian immigrants who came to this country looking for an opportunity to live in a better place. I was fortunate in that my parents always strived to find the best housing or the best neighborhoods they could afford. We were always the poorest people in the best neighborhoods. And what that provided for me was really an opportunity. My parents did not understand what it took to go to college. English was not their first language. They didn't know how to apply for college. But I went to a school where everybody went to college. And so I didn't even think, of course I'm not going to go to college, because I could see all of my friends going to college and I was able to figure it out on my own. But I did not have my parents' support in terms of actually going to college or encouraging me to go to college. But I do have to say that my mother worked in order to ensure that I could be in college once I actually got in. Had we moved into another neighborhood, it is likely that I would not have gone to college because it wouldn't have been an opportunity that would have come to me naturally or in terms of my parents encouraging me to go. So really for me, where I lived made a huge difference on my outcomes. And so with that, perfect timing. As soon as we get it onto a slide, you'll be able to see our presentation. And the first part of it is to talk about how this affordable housing siting policy is really centered in the affirmatively furthering fair housing laws. And fundamentally, it's all about where people get to live and whether we're creating choices and opportunities so that they get to live in all parts of our cities. This is a story about the people who live in our affordable housing communities and where they have opportunity and choice to live. So in addition to developing a policy that is consistent with federal and state affirmatively furthering fair housing laws, the siting policy goals also include increasing affordable housing in areas of opportunity, mitigating displacement as housing price pressures continue to grow, and finally, we wanted to develop a policy that is easily administered by city staff and one that everyone could understand. The Housing Department did not do this alone. We had a team of consultants who are from two different organizations. A group came from the Colorado Housing Partnership, and they were a key partner in this work due to their experience in developing housing policy across California. Their team built the opportunity area maps used by the state to incentivize investment in opportunity areas when building affordable housing. In addition to the team from the California Housing Partnership, we also had a representation from the Othering and Belonging Institute at UC Berkeley. They bring together researchers, organizers, stakeholders, communicators, and policymakers to identify and eliminate the barriers to an inclusive, just, and sustainable society in order to create transformative change. Their work is centered on realizing a world where all people belong. Their director, John A. Powell, is an internationally recognized expert in the areas of civil rights, structural racism, housing, and poverty. The Other in Belonging's latest national study showed that segregation is the linchpin to racial inequality. It is the mechanism that sorts people and determines access to resources and power. The siting policy is an effort to reverse segregation in San Jose and thus reduce racial inequality. As we begin our discussion on the siting policy, it's important that we're very clear on how this policy will be applied. It will be used by the Housing Department when we fund any deed-restricted affordable housing unit in the city. It will also be applied when an inclusionary housing developer selects to build their units off-site. Fundamental to our siting policy are these neighborhood categories. The siting policy used a data-centered approach in the development of neighborhood categories. These 3 categories are used to build the siting policy. So first of all, we have Category 1 neighborhoods, which are the dark blue. These neighborhoods have characteristics associated with upward mobility, educational attainment, physical and mental health, and other positive outcomes, especially for children. These areas are identical to the high or highest resource areas in the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee and the Housing and Community Development Opportunity Maps, meaning they rank in the top 40% of census tracts in the Bay Area, according to indicators associated with positive economic, educational, and health outcome for residents. This means that a developer who's able to site his property his or her property in a Category 1 neighborhood will also receive additional state points when their application is being scored for tax credits. So it's important to know that our policy is aligned with the state in how we defined these areas. Category 2 is simply neither a Category 1 nor a Category 3 neighborhood, and it's actually where the majority of San Jose residents live. Category 3 neighborhoods are defined as either high poverty, where 20% of the households living in the area fall below the federal poverty line, or they're within the 95th percentile of violent crime areas. And this is where the neighborhoods where exposure to violent crime is especially high relative to the rest of San Jose. Areas are defined as the highest violent crime if they ranked above the 95th percentile in violent crime rate per 1,000 people in San Jose. And we use data from 2018 to 2020 for the 4 violent crime categories tracked by the San Jose Police Department, which include rape, homicide, robbery, and aggravated assault. So we just wanted to try to illustrate what this all means. So here you can see we have all 3 categories in color. So blue is Category 1, where 34% of the population resides. Category 2 is where 59% of our population resides. And in Category 3, only 7% of San Jose's population lives in a neighborhood that we've defined as a Category 3 neighborhood. This next slide shows you where our affordable homes are located. In Category 1, only 9% of our affordable housing is located there. In Category 2, 68% of our affordable homes are located in a Category 2 neighborhood, and 23% of our affordable homes are located in a Category 3. Now, if you put these together, ideally, the house and the people would be of the same color, but they're not. And so what we can see here is that and what we're particularly concerned about are Category 1 and Category 3, because we can see that's where we have the biggest amount of disparity between our population and the amount of affordable housing located there. So again, in Category 1, we talked about how 34% of our population lives there, but we only have 9% of homes that are affordable are located in this area. But in category 3, where we have 7% of the population that lives there, almost a quarter of our affordable housing is located in these areas. The siting policy was designed or recognizes that this is an unequal distribution, and it tries to redirect future funding to correct these distributions over time. The siting policy does this by creating these funding priorities based on the number of units that we're going to be funding in 2 different phases. So the first phase is an initial 3-year transition period. So for category 1, we would allocate 30% of our units that get funded should be located in a category 3 area. And that's all 3 time periods. So we are not suggesting we are going to try to fund every year with this kind of allocation. But at the end of the 3 years, this is where we want to end. Category 2, 50% of the units should be in a category 2 neighborhood, and category 3, 20% of the homes should be in a category 3 neighborhood. In our second phase, and it says 5, but it's actually a 3-year phase-in period, which is the first one. But the second phase will be 5 years, and you can see we're continuing to shift the number of units we want to achieve into category 1. So we'd like to see 60% of the units we fund are in category 1, 30% of the units would be located in category 2, and 10% would be located in category 3. We do plan to do an initial review after the first 3 years, and it could be that we could make additional recommendations based on the analysis after that first phase. There were some challenges that did I skip a slide? Yes. Not sure. Oh, here. Nope. All right. So there were challenges that we did anticipate that potentially could impact this policy that were brought to our attention. Some of those included, would it be too expensive for us to fund in category 1? And what we have found to date, we did some additional research and we found that the land costs were not higher in category 1 neighborhoods. There was also concerns about there could be potentially fewer parcels in category 1 neighborhoods, and so we are committed to working. The timing is perfect because we're in the process of identifying parcels for the housing element, and we'll be working with planning to identify parcels where developers could go into. And there was also a concern about a lack of investment in low-income neighborhoods. In order to incentivize category 1 neighborhoods, what we're proposing and that we added to this recommendation is that we create a pre-development funding and capacity building grants for developments that are only going into category 1, that we would partner with a CDFI to create this essentially pre-development, land development set aside so that developers could move quickly. I noticed in the last presentation you said the city moved fast, but often when it comes to land development, we move quite slowly because we have additional requirements that we make a developer jump through if they're coming directly to the city. So we believe we could reduce the red tape, CDFI could move faster, and this was one of the strategies that Measure A used in order to incentivize developers to start funding or start producing permit supportive housing. And we also think that this would help to increase the amount of residential sites that would be available. And as I said earlier, we'll be working with the planning department through the housing element process to identify additional sites. In terms of category 3 incentives, or how we might address the issues that came up with there, we believe that by requiring developers through a competitive process to demonstrate what additional benefit they will bring to their category 3 development, such as enhanced services to the tenants that live there and or neighborhood serving facilities that they can include in their development, such as daycare, that these would be an actual benefit to both the residents and the tenants, and we want to encourage it by making it as part of the competitive process. In addition, while the Housing Department is focused on, in this particular policy, on creating increased opportunities and choices throughout the city, we also want to recognize that when you are furthering fair housing, there is another option on what we could do as a city. And the other option is to increase our investment in these poor Category 3 neighborhoods and do something or invest more money in order to lift them out of their poverty by, again, providing more resources and opportunities there. And so there was concern expressed that we would, by limiting the Category 3 developments, lose sight of a development opportunity that might be catalytic. And we are committed that if such a development were to come forward, we would absolutely try to find a way to fund it, and of course would come to council. It would ultimately be your decision if it was above and beyond what the Category 3 limitations are. I think it is important to note 25% or close to a quarter of our housing is already in these Category 3 neighborhoods, and it hasn't been enough to make a change. If we're going to make a change in these Category 3 neighborhoods, we have to do much more than housing in order to move the needle there. We have to agree that we have to invest more in these neighborhoods. In summary, the purpose of the affordable housing siting policy is to provide housing choices and opportunities for low-income residents to live in all areas of the city. The policy recognizes that there's an imbalance in that we have fewer opportunities to live in Category 1 neighborhoods, and we have many more choices to live in Category 3. The housing siting policy is not and should not be a tool to prevent the development of much-needed affordable housing, as this council has already acknowledged that we are in both a housing and homeless crisis. Today, I received a report from MTC ABAG, and it stated that in 2019, 16% of San Jose's population was qualified as extremely low income, but we only have 0.6% of all of our homes that are restricted affordable to that income level. Overall, less than 6% of our housing stock is affordable in terms that it's deed restricted and income restricted. But over 50% of our population, according to this MTC ABAG report, is eligible for our affordable housing. What this clearly shows to me is that the need continues to outstrip the demand for affordable housing. There is no city council district that has too much affordable housing. Our residents need this housing, and for many, it's the only reason they can live here. We need to continue to find ways to build the affordable housing our residents so desperately need, but we need to do it throughout the city. And the affordable housing siting policy is an attempt to begin to put focus and energy into trying to get as much of our housing in Opportunity 1 areas. And with that, we are open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, we have several members of the community who'd like to speak. Tony?
Mary Tucker. After Mary Tucker, I'll be going to Zoom.
Welcome back, Mary. Good to see you.
Okay, good evening. I'm Mary Tucker, and I have been a resident of District 3 since 1994. Some good work has been done on the housing siting policy, but is still lacking some key analyses, as evidenced in Councilmember Perales' memo. I know the city is trying very hard to develop affordable housing for the homeless, but I also want you to be aware that there are some homeless individuals who don't want to be housed, even in emergency shelters, either because of drug or liquor restrictions. And it is those individuals and possibly others who are now regularly using my front lawn as their bathroom. leaving their excrement for me to clean up. My front water faucet is often used to take showers. We've had individuals park on our street in front of my house for days and then leave after dumping large amounts of trash and used needles in the yard, and my mailbox is regularly ransacked. I live within less than half a mile from an emergency shelter and 3 places that provide food to homeless individuals, some of whom come over and sit in my yard and then leave their plates and containers in my yard. We've installed security cameras and special close-off valves for our water, and now considering fencing in the front yard, but 3 feet fencing is pretty easy to jump over. I'm not the only one who has experienced this. A neighbor of mine even spoke of finding individuals in their backyard having sex. Calling the police doesn't work. Many of these activities that are done at night, and by the time we are aware of it, they have left the premises. Another neighbor spoke about having similar situations, called the police and was told, "What do you want me to do about it?" The San Jose Police Department program only applies to properties with gated or fenced areas. So maybe if they break through my back fencing, they'll stay long enough for me to call the police and for them to arrive.
Thank you. I'm sorry, your time is up. Okay, we're moving to Zoom. The first speaker is Lance Shoemaker.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Lance, we can hear you.
Okay, there's a PowerPoint presentation. Okay, I can start whenever you're ready.
Go.
My name is Lance Shoemaker, and I am speaking tonight to introduce a presentation by Neighbors for Equitable Housing Placement. Next slide, please.
Sorry.
Next slide. We are a group of San Jose residents that has been meeting voluntarily on over a 2-year basis to analyze what we believe is a large problem of an overconcentration of affordable and supportive housing within a small geographic range of neighborhoods in San Jose. This slide shows the various neighborhoods that we come from. Next slide, please. First of all, we want to commend the Housing Department for being proactive in recognizing that there is a need for a siting policy. Not many cities do this, and we think this is a great effort. However, also we want to commend the Housing Department for the goals of the siting policy as identified in this language. However, based upon our research and our analysis, we believe there are 2 critical flaws in the housing policy in its current form, in particular with regards to goals 1 and 2. We are asking the City Council tonight to please direct the Housing Department to revise the draft siting policy to address these 2 critical flaws. Next slide, please. The 2 critical flaws that we believe exist in the current draft are, number 1, the siting policy does not adequately distinguish or acknowledge the different impacts supportive housing has on a neighborhood versus affordable housing. The current siting policy would continue to allow supportive housing to be concentrated in only a small geographic range of neighborhoods, and we're going to show you tonight how currently supportive housing is concentrated. Second of all, the policy does really nothing to ensure that future affordable and supportive housing will be driven into the 78% of the city's census blocks that currently have 0 affordable and supportive housing. And we do not believe there are adequate precautions to prevent the continuation of these housing developments to be concentrated in the 22% of census blocks that already have them.
The next speaker is Antonia.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Antonina. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Next slide, please. The first flaw in the siting policy doesn't acknowledge the different impacts that supportive housing has in the surrounding community. Supportive housing is unique because wraparound services are provided for its residents who may have been unhoused, have mental health and addiction issues, and/or disabled. Next slide, please. This is a map of supportive and affordable housing throughout all of the City of San Jose Council districts. Red markers are for supportive and green are for affordable. You can see where the concentration of both types of housing are. which is mostly in District 3, 6, and 7, the core of the city. Next slide, please. This bar graph shows the distribution of only supportive housing throughout the districts of San Jose. As noted in August 27th joint memo from Council members Perales, Esparza, and Jimenez, not only District 3 and 7 have two of the largest permanent supportive housing developments in the nation, these districts, along with District 6, have the most permanent supportive housing in the city. Next slide, please. Council members may have seen this slide in that same memo. It documents the number of police calls over a 10-year time period in 5 different affordable and supportive housing neighborhoods. As you can see in the graph, the 3 neighborhoods with affordable housing have no or little impact on the number of calls, yet the supportive housing neighborhoods have substantially more police calls after opening. We asked the council to amend the siting policy to distinguish between supportive and affordable housing, such that supportive housing developments are equitably distributed throughout all of the San Jose Council districts. Thank you, and the next speaker is Victoria.
Victoria? Okay, hold on. I clicked the wrong person. Go ahead, Victoria.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor, City Council members, my name is Victoria Takeda. Next slide, please. The second flaw of the city siting policy is in its primary function to drive placement of new affordable and supportive housing by the established categories. The flaw is not the categories themselves, but the oversight in not utilizing the discovery by data that 78% of our city census blocks have 0 deed-restricted affordable housing developments. This 78% of our city census blocks can be found in all the categories. Placement of new housing must begin here in these census blocks within each category. This approach will equitably distribute affordable housing throughout the city and will alleviate overconcentration of housing types in the existing 22% of census blocks that currently house all affordable and supportive housing units in the city of San Jose. The League of Women Voters and Jennifer Loving, CEO of Destination Home, recognizes that placement of housing in the 78% census block is the correct approach. This approach will drive the city's siting policy to achieve its goal of equitable distribution, ensure access to opportunity-rich and historically segregated neighborhoods, provide choice for low-income neighbors who are at risk of displacement, who deserve a choice to age in place in their lived communities with known support systems, protect low-income census blocks with the highest level of gun and gang violence from placement of affordable and supportive housing. We request that the council amend the current siting policy, approve the established timelines and categories, and approve the prioritization of placement of all.
Tina Morrill.
Hi, this is Tina Morrill, and just I'd like to have the next slide, please. Just to reiterate, we do appreciate the time and attention of the crafting of our siting policy. And we do feel that in order for this policy to be effective, council should, before approving the policy, direct housing to include these 2 changes. Number 1, recognize impacts and ensure even distribution, because there is a difference between affordable and supportive housing. Supportive is unique because of the needs and also the neighborhood impacts. And number 2, prioritize development. There needs to be development in the 78% of the city's census blocks, where right now there is 0. In order for this the development to be equitable, there needs to be both supportive and affordable. Now, we understand the need for speed, and we want to get people housed as quickly as possible, but we have to do this policy right. And it needs to be done right the first time, because we don't have an opportunity to do it over. Next slide, please. These are the sources of our data. And if you want to go back to the previous slide, I'll just leave you with this request. Thank you all for your time.
Robert Stromberg.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. My name is Bob Stromberg, and I work with Destination Home. We're a nonprofit organization working to end and prevent homelessness throughout Santa Clara County. We strongly encourage approval of the new San Jose Affordable Siting Policy as recommended in the staff report. To solve our housing crisis, we must drastically increase production of affordable housing in our community. And as we've already heard, with 50% of San Jose households eligible for affordable housing, only 6% of our pipeline and existing housing is affordable deed restricted for those households. We must take steps to promote equitable development and ensure low-income residents have access to housing in all parts of our city, including in high opportunity and resource-rich neighborhoods where we've not historically seen much affordable housing development. The recommended policy represents an important step towards achieving our affordable housing goals, but there's still much work ahead. Council will face land use decisions in the months ahead, and we look forward to working with you to implement policies needed to open up more of our city to deeply affordable multifamily housing. In particular, the upcoming housing element must identify sufficient sites in Category 1 neighborhoods. To ensure we move forward toward meeting these goals, approval and implementation of this policy should not be delayed any further. Thank you for your consideration of these recommendations and for all of your work on this policy. Please vote yes to approve the affordable housing siting policy today. Thank you very much.
Elma Arredondo.
Good evening. My name is Elma Arredondo. I'm with Alum Rock Urban Village Advocates. We're committed to an equity framework for development that seeks to invest in the Alum Rock corridor and in the existing and historical community surrounding it. We're very concerned with a policy that uses neighborhood characteristics to establish neighborhood categories that include opportunity areas, high poverty areas, high violent areas, and uses these categories to determine whether to invest or divest in those neighborhoods. Historically, banks, lending institutions, and government jurisdictions historically redlined our neighborhoods based on the same type of designations. These designations have been used to decide where to put airports, where to build freeways, where to not invest in our neighborhoods. The Mayfair district has been surrounded by freeways 101, 680, 280, gassing our families daily. COVID pandemic has exposed inequities that our communities in the east side of San Jose have endured for decades. Given that our neighborhoods are in need of 5,000 affordable units of family housing that our families should be able to move into with a local preference policy to address the continued gentrification and displacement of our families. Phase 1 is the only one really acceptable in this proposal, but without a local preference policy, we can build all the affordable housing in our district, in our quarter, and our families still cannot get into those units. We ask that you ensure that these category designations for affordable housing does not continue to punish our community and corrects the historical inequities in them. Thank you.
Catherine Hedges.
Good afternoon. This is Catherine Hedges, and I'm not speaking on behalf of an organization. One thing I agree with a lot of things different people are saying, but one thing that stood out about the presentation is the suggestion that affordable housing in low resource neighborhoods can compensate for being in a low resource neighborhood by offering programs. That could be the case if the programs are strong, but you need to have accountability for the programs and not let affordable housing developers just check the box that they're offering programs, because a lot of the quality just isn't there. And I see a lot, a lot of the program where I live, I look at like, yeah, they're doing that so they can check a box and they have a health program. And their idea of a health program is to, healthy eating class is to grill a bunch of turkey burgers and let people put toppings on them. Nothing about how to actually, anyway, I'm sorry, I'm not really prepared for this question, but there's, some programs are good and helpful and others are not. So there needs to be a lot of vetting instead of just assuming that providing services means that people will actually benefit. Thank you very much.
Todd Williams.
Good evening. My name's Todd Williams. I live in the Vendome neighborhood. I've attended several of the housing siting policy meetings. And while I think there are some good ideas, I've asked at every meeting for a basic feasibility study for San Jose. By that, I mean, I've asked every time how many people in San Jose today would be eligible for affordable housing, how many units would it take to meet that need, and what is the taxpayer cost for that many units, initially and ongoing. I've yet to receive answers to those questions, and without that, I don't see how you can move forward. I did look up that there's over 101,000 people that live below the poverty line in San Jose. So if you lowball giving 100,000 to each person, that's over $10 billion. I'm not sure we can afford a program that's lowball, a program that would cost over $10 billion. So I'm suggesting that we look into other ways to invest. Jackie Morales told a very touching story about her education. Maybe we could invest in the education and school systems in these impoverished areas to uplift them and work on wage disparity throughout San Jose. Thank you very much.
Events SVH.
Yes, thank you. This is Matthew Reed from Silicon Valley at Home. We were here to support this siting policy as proposed by staff and actually appreciate a lot of the input that's come from council memos. We'd like to thank staff for all of the hard work and the public for what's been a really robust engagement. The truth is that we need more affordable housing in San Jose. The need is crushing. The impact is both immediate today and we believe is going to be enduring for families and communities. And so we really need to do a better job. We believe this policy will create expanded affordable housing opportunities throughout the city. In that way, it responds to the state law, affirmatively furthering fair housing, but also the moral obligation and the long-term health and development of the entire city. Let me be clear, though, that we need more affordable housing everywhere. This is not an either or policy, but a yes and policy. And we believe that the proposed policy realizes this goal. We believe that it addresses some of the concerns about different types of housing in different communities. We believe that it attempts to balance the needs in communities that are desperate for affordable housing in their communities and want it, and also to expand opportunities in areas where it hasn't traditionally been. This is a significant opportunity for the city. We believe the timing is perfect. The housing element and the retiring of the urban village horizons, which are now required by state law, will be coming to council. There are policies proposed to incentivize affordable housing in growth areas that are actually already identified in the general plan. The tools are available, but this is going to take policy work and planning work. We need more affordable housing. This is an important time to be asking these questions, but there's more work ahead. Thank you.
Aaron Eckhouse.
Hello, my name is Aaron Eckhouse. I'm the Regional Policy Manager with California YIMBY, Yes in My Backyard, here to speak in support of the siting policy. I think it's clear that we need more affordable housing in every neighborhood in San Jose. But we also know that segregation nationwide is worse than it was when the Fair Housing Act was passed 50 years ago, and that San Jose itself remains deeply segregated. The proposed policy from staff can help advance fair housing in San Jose and ensure that people from all walks of life and people at all income levels can benefit from all of the resources that San Jose has to offer. This policy, however, will not be fully successful unless it is paired with land use policy changes to ensure that there are actually sites available and adequately zoned for affordable and multifamily housing in San Jose's resource-rich neighborhoods, such as Willow Glen and West San Jose. So I do support this siting policy, and I'm also very encouraged to hear from staff that the city is going to be looking specifically at land use changes to better support this policy through the housing element process. I think that's a great opportunity, and looking forward to continuing to work with y'all on moving it forward. Thank you.
Sandra?
Thank you so much for your time. I did find the memo from Councilman Perales, Esperanza, and Jimenez very informative. On page 7, it mentions the needs for stronger case management and supportive services for some of the housing being discussed. Aren't some of these the responsibility of the county? Are we coordinating with the county? Are we leveraging the county's funds? Are the siting requirements and reviews going to consider the location of these county services and how they'll be distributed? This memo also begged the question to me if we don't need another consultant or organization to review all of the analysis performed to make sure that they are correct and that the staff conclusions are indeed correct. I find the subject very interesting. I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I found the memos very interesting, and it raised the question as to how complete, widespread, and peer-reviewed were the studies that were completed. Thank you for your time.
Irene?
Hello, my name is Irene Smith, and I've lived in San Jose since 1989. We firmly believe that affordable housing is critical, the need is crushing, and this needs to be done for success. We think that we can make the siting policy better, and we support the community presentation that was done first. First, we have 2 points that we want to make in particular, is that we have to differentiate between affordable housing and supportive housing so that supportive housing gets the resources they need for successful homes. The second point is that we need to have a complete picture of affordable housing so that we can include all different types of affordable housing. Downtown itself has demonstrated a commendable wide variety of affordable housing, but all those different types aren't included in the siting policy. For example, group homes or rent stabilized or shelters, transitional services, or hotels. A complete plan must include all types. So we are asking for a differentiation between affordable housing and supportive housing for successful new homes. And we're asking for an inclusion of all types of affordable housing. And thank you so much for all this detailed work from the community members as well as the housing department.
Scott Neese?
Good evening, Mayor Liccardo, members of the City Council, Scott Neese, Executive Director of the San Jose Downtown Association. San Jose certainly needs a fully baked housing siting policy, but this one is half-baked. The proposal before you will not achieve the goal of equitable distribution of future affordable housing units throughout the city. Rather, it will continue the practice of placing more of these units in already saturated neighborhoods like Vendome, Hensley, and Glenside. To illustrate this point, the County of Santa Clara opened a 90-unit permanent supportive homeless housing project in our neighborhood earlier this year, and there was zero consideration for our neighborhood context. No one looked at the number of nearby liquor stores, the proximity of the creek, the number of existing affordable units, such as halfway houses, foster care units, and of course, the major difference when locating supportive housing versus affordable. And these issues are not addressed in the policy before you tonight. It is encouraging to see a couple of the council member memos include the county. This is imperative because the county can lease or purchase property for homeless housing anywhere it wants. For our Pedro Street project, the county refused to get a required conditional use permit from the city of San Jose. The county claimed intergovernmental immunity to skirt municipal law. If the county won't follow municipal land use law and our city attorney won't defend it, then a mere citing policy will be completely toothless. Please take this policy back for more work to make it stronger and more equitable.
Caller 2531. Please press *6 to unmute caller 2531. Okay, I'm going to move on to caller 6907. Again, press *6.
Hello, my name is Brian Prescott. I'm calling in to respectfully ask you to support staff's recommendation and vote yes on the affordable siding policy. So I live in downtown here in D3. I'm a member of South Bay YIMBY and Silicon Valley at home. What I'd like to draw your attention to is one of the 12 principles in the general plan, which is that of having a fiscally strong city. And I believe that allowing affordable homes to be built in neighborhoods of high opportunity is a very strong strategy for achieving that goal. It also points us towards equity because it allows people who are currently living at low incomes to have opportunity for tomorrow. And that's part of a fiscally strong city because it makes it stronger for people who right now are building up their own resilience. So it's really tricky to come up with a policy that really achieves the goals that we want. Your staff has really done a good job. They've worked very hard on it, and you're lucky to have them. The only complaints I could possibly have is that the percentages of affordable housing only add up to 100% because we all know we desperately need more. Thank you very much.
Alex Shore.
Good evening, this is Alex Shore. I'm speaking tonight not on behalf of any organization for which I work or commission on which I sit, and I want to share support for staff's tremendous work on the affordable housing policy. I do hope you'll support it today. One of the discussions I've had with staff over time is how do we make sure that because we have buses and some light rail and some heavy rail through Caltrain throughout our city and now BART, how can we have affordable housing throughout our city near transit so that folks aren't isolated in communities throughout the city? So I think staff has done that. I did have an interesting discussion with one of our best affordable housing developers in San Jose recently, and that individual raised some concerns about would we be recreating redlining by creating specific areas where we want to concentrate housing, and would that be an unintended consequence of this policy? So I'm pretty sure it's going to be good and okay, but perhaps there's a council member in your questions who wants to dig into that a little bit more and get some great responses from Jackie and Rachel and team on that. Overall, I think it's absolutely moving in the right direction, and I'm so glad that we're thinking about affordable housing throughout our city. I think when I've seen affordable housing projects, I often see nice design, fantastic community benefits, and most importantly, affordable housing for our residents. And the more that I think San Joseans are exposed to great projects in their neighborhood, the more they realize that affordable housing is a win for all of us in the community. Thank you.
Marnie Kamzan.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for holding this meeting. I respectfully ask for the for the council to send this back for revision. The problems in the current policy as stated do not address the difference between affordable housing and supportive housing. And also there are saturation data points in the siting policy that are concerning. These levels determine how much more affordable housing a community can and should handle. Saturation is determined by census block, not by district. The housing department believes that each census block can have a 50% saturation, despite the fact that a majority of San Jose census blocks currently have zero affordable or supportive housing. And the policy also states that limiting funding in high impacted census blocks where 50% or more of existing homes are deed restricted says that it can limit funding, but there are also exceptions to be made. I understand the need for affordable housing. However, I think this policy is extremely complex, and there are unintended consequences by placing a vast majority of affordable and supportive housing close together, all in the same place. I do support affordable housing. I just think that this policy needs a little bit of tweaking, and I hope that the City Council will send it back for revisions, because as someone already said, once we go ahead with this, there is no turning back. And
Dennis Alexander. Dennis? Okay, I'm going to move on to Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thank you very much for this item. This is the very item that, there was much debate about last year at election time, a lot of uproar. That is when I started very seriously talking about the ideas of mixed income housing. Reagan Henninger reported to a committee meeting, I think Neighborhood Services, a few months ago. The MTC and CASA, they've been developing these ideas for quite a long time, mixed income. They were planning to introduce them in 2029. So it's safe to say that by 2025, they'll be officially starting. Have you noticed that I've been talking about these mixed income ideas for months now to get yourselves prepared that we simply should be talking about these things. It can work as a wonderful flexibility in how to address this issue. There seems to be some problems in how to better define what affordable housing can be at this time, and mixed income ideas are just seem a natural key to this future of how to make the process easier to understand and flexible, and it can allow you choices in where to place low-income housing in the future of neighborhoods and communities. Yet I don't hear anything about this subject from any council person. It hurts, that this is happening this way. I hope it is happening, and I'm just not hearing it. We can do these things now. We start talking about things now openly, and we can get excited together. And then by 2025, we'll have a full plan ready to go. And we just, we possibly need to be preparing for natural disaster things at this time. But let's have a plan ready immediately afterwards. And let's be really ready to do that and talk about these things openly so no one gets hurt in these sort of natural disaster things. Let's just be building our good communities with good ideas and not be afraid to share those ideas. Thank you.
Dennis Alexander, let's try you again.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hi, this is Dennis Alexander from District 7, and I've been part of District 7 since 1976, since I was born. So I have a question. So everybody's talking about housing for the homeless or for anybody who needs it. But I drive around San Jose. I drive around San Jose all the time. And, there's all these buildings being built. You guys are spending money. You guys have been spending money on all these big buildings downtown San Jose. Okay. There's a lot of homeless people. I walk into the jungle. I go down to the jungle. The jungle is back. The jungle is there. You guys are not spending money. You guys are building all these darn buildings downtown for the rich, You guys keep saying, oh, we're going to help the homeless. We're going to help the homeless. You've been saying this for years. Now you have Mr. Sam Licardo there. Sam Licardo does not care about the homeless. He cares about putting money in his pocket. So, we need to talk about real issues. Help the homeless, help people find homes, people that need homes. There's a lot of people in San Jose that need homes. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who lost their homes. There's a lot of people in District 7. District 7, you drive around District 7. Nobody helps District 7. District 7 needs help. District 3 needs help. I love District 3. I love District 7. I've lived here my entire life. Where is housing over here? Where are you guys going to build housing over here? You guys never help District 7. What do you guys do over here? Maya, she's wonderful. I did say bad stuff about her. Okay, I take it back. But she needs help over here.
Caller 5140.
There's no getting out of this. The more you're going to build, the more you're going to get. How many have-nots are you going to be able to take care of? You have to ask yourself that. You have to ask yourself, are you willing to pay for entire families everything, their food, their housing, their health care, their utilities? There's not enough money in the world for all this. I think the promises that you're making are really crazy. I mean, I understand helping people a little bit or, having a limitation to it. But the way it's going here, this is all that is talked about during city council. The unhoused. What about, have you ever talked about the taxpayers and the ratepayers and the people who have to pay high insurance costs for everything? I mean, many people are doing well, but I mean, one wrong move, you could be out of luck if you had a major health setback or a stock market downturn or a job loss. I don't think you guys realize that the people who pay for all this are completely ignored in your meetings. People never, ever talk about the taxpayer. It's always, we need to give more to the unhoused, and we need to give more to the police and fire. That's all you ever hear about. Or, some fringe group. Oh, they need to have more. Did you ever think about the taxpayers need less taxes? They need less fees. They need less regulations, like where their flagpole is planted in their house or a shed. No, that you guys abuse the law-abiding, tax-paying citizens that don't complain. I complain. I complain on everyone's behalf who's getting railroaded by you people. You guys like to just pose for pictures and hand out free things. That's what you do. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. It's a terrible city. It's a terrible city council, and I can't believe that there isn't more people.
Paul Soto? Paul Soto?
Yes, Paul Soto from Horseshoe. These policies, this is going to be my last meeting. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm no longer going to participate in these fucking meetings. I'm no longer going to participate in this charade, in this.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sutter, we don't allow any expletives on this. Thank you.
Tessa Woodmansey?
Yes, hi, Tessa Woodmansey. Well, like I said before, Mayor Licardo, you can correct us, but then give us a chance to correct. After you tell what the problem is, that would be helpful. And in regards to the housing crisis that we're experiencing, and equitableness. We should not be building in South San Jose. That's the problem. Because of our climate crisis, we need to be having our resources located in our center core, because we don't have unlimited resources, and we have to put a price on the issue of that. We can't put transit out to the South San Jose and support that area because we have limited resources. So we need to get more concentrated in our core. But here's the situation. Here I am in the core in a very resilient, rich neighborhood of District 6, the Garden Alameda, part of the Greater Rose Garden, and you have denied housing here. And this has been the problem. My son, who ran for city council against Dev Davis because of the business-friendly and not dealing with our crises, which are housing and our climate crisis. And so now and then we were denied affordable housing. We tried to put affordable housing in our neighborhood. What you're giving us is a hotel. And then the developer tried to put a housing here, and you denied it because it's polluted. And it's like, oh, well, that could be solved by addressing the pollution versus segregating the community from the polluters. And I always said that the benefit of us living here has been that we're keeping an eye on the polluters, and we addressed that with Royal Coach Tour, the diesel bus depot, and that you as a government needed to protect us from harm by controlling the businesses, their noise and pollution, but you didn't. And so we are not getting affordable housing when you say you're supporting it.
The final speaker with his hand up is Roland. Go ahead, Roland.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I think all of us at the end of the day are for affordable housing. The question is, where do we put it? And I think to be able to make the right decisions, you've got to start with good data. So I'm going to speak about concerns I have about the data in my particular neck of the woods. So if you look at the Council Member Perales' memo, you will see that my particular area actually shows up in purple, which is the 95% crime. And the first issue I've got is how recent is this data? And then the real issue is granularity, because the census tract is immense and actually consists of 3 separate areas. To the south is my area. This is where I live. We have got some apartments and it's primarily single-family housing. And then as you move further north, you get Kaiser Hospital and the VTA Light Rail, which quite frankly should be affordable housing. I've mentioned this before. And then you move further north, you now hit the Cato Urban Village, which by the way was the very first urban village in San Jose. And the issue I have there, okay, is where is all this crime coming from? Well, if you go and look at this urban village, this is where we had the sideshow that you probably heard about the news on Sunday night. And by the way, they were back at 3 o'clock in the morning, and people are getting killed in broad daylight. So in closing, I think we've got to start looking at this data in a more granular way and figure out how what used to be a secured IBM facility has now turned into an area of crime, and whether we're going to see a repeating pattern in other urban villages elsewhere in the city of San Jose. Thank you.
Back to Council.
Thank you. Thanks to members of the community who weighed in. We appreciate the deep engagement, I know, of many community neighborhood leaders in this very important matter. Let's go to Councilmember Perales.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, staff, for the long work on this. It's been some time coming, and certainly a conversation I've been having with your department, Jackie, and my community members for a couple years now. And so I am excited to be here at this point, and hope we can craft a direction where we can move forward with some consensus. And I think we have a lot of really good work in front of us, and maybe just a few suggestions from the dais up here to try and make it just a little better. So I think, as we see, and we've seen this in a number of different reports, this is not the only time we hear this repeated theme, but we know we need affordable housing built at a much higher rate. We know we need it all throughout our city. And certainly there shouldn't be any neighborhoods that are exclusive to particular incomes. And I think as we build to work out this policy, our hope is that we don't repeat the patterns that obviously that we intend to avoid here. And so as staff put in their report, Category 1 neighborhoods make up 34% of all census tracts in San Jose, but only are home to 9% of the affordable housing units. And that slide was very telling as you look across the board. And breaking that down even further, most of the units that are affordable actually in Category 1 neighborhoods are a majority of family or senior housing, and only 1% of all supportive housing in the city in those 34% of those neighborhoods. And so it's also skewed, not necessarily just in the overall amount of affordable housing, but also in the type, in the levels of affordability. We know that our numbers of unhoused continue to grow, and we know that they affect our entire city, citywide, and not just in one district. But we do recognize, and I know I recognize, and I remind my community members, that we do see disproportionately higher numbers in areas like District 3 and around the core. And so that's where the term equitable distribution really comes into play, because the intent and idea here is not to somehow have the exact same amount within every district or every neighborhood throughout the city, but it's an equitable share, which today I think we can easily say we don't have that. Where I do have some concerns is the type of affordable housing, obviously that's being built predominantly in Category 2, but most predominantly in Category 3 neighborhoods. Each of the city's fully 100% permanent supportive housing developments are in Category 3 areas, and we've seen an increase in calls for service specifically in those areas, putting a strain on our city resources. I will note that the majority of those calls are actually coming from within the developments themselves, and I know that that's a major concern from community members initially when we are approving or discussing approval of permanent supportive housing, that somehow it's going to take an untold burden on the surrounding neighborhoods. We actually haven't seen that. We've certainly seen a rise in the calls for service, but again, predominantly they're coming from within the developments themselves, just showing some other challenges, and that's not necessarily a topic for today, but I think that's, in one end, it's a positive data point, but on another, when you do have such an increase in calls for service to one particular area, it does put a strain on resources like fire and police, and what that could do is it could tie them up to be less available to calls for service amongst the neighborhood there in the area, in the districts that those firefighters and police officers are responding to. In just a 4-month period from May of 2020 to September of 2020, there were over 170 calls down at 2nd Street Studios. Again, the majority of those coming on site within. Both our fire department, our police department raised this concern to me in my office, that many of these calls were issues that they felt could be addressed through the better services on site. And again, another sort of a topic that we can discuss in regards to how it is that we're making permanent supportive housing an even better function. But I will say that again, that strain that it can have on our police and fire resources does have a domino effect to take a toll on the resources that are then available or tied up and not available for the surrounding community. So as we move forward with this policy, I do think Category 1 we hopefully should see a better representation of all levels of affordability. And again, to what we see today, where it's predominantly senior or higher levels of income, my hope is that we're actually seeing a better distribution of the types of affordable housing. And I recognize in the memo, Jackie, that you have on page 9, it is, you speak to that there on the accounting for different populations. in the last paragraph, they're talking about, as staff evaluates the effectiveness of the signing policy, populations such as family, senior, and supportive housing will be included in the analysis, and then any uneven distributions identified in that analysis will be addressed by adjusting the scoring criteria. And so is it safe to say that then you will be looking at supportive housing, for instance, 100% permanent supportive housing, you'll be analyzing that through this policy and through these next few years, so where we can actually ensure that we're not over-concentrating particular types of deeply affordable housing in certain areas and in claiming a victory, if you will, and that we're doing a better job at dispersing all types.
Yes, council member. We didn't highlight this, but in the memo, and if you accept the staff report on page 15, it says, as a result of looking at these imbalances and understanding that the majority of permanent supportive housing is being located in area category 3, that we would actually deduct points for permanent supportive housing developments in a category 3 neighborhood in this NOFA that we plan to release. And then in category 1, because we can see a significant amount of senior housing, there we would give more points for housing that includes both family and permanent supportive housing.
Okay, and I do see that, yeah, in
yeah,
page
so that would be an
under,
adjustment.
And that can happen now. So you'll both.
And that's going to happen immediately when we release the next NOFA, if you all accept the staff report.
Yeah. So if you'll both monitor, but also with this next NOFA, you're going to automatically begin to incentivize or disincentivize permanent supportive housing in particular areas.
Correct, and then we'll see in the first round what the impact of doing points does in terms of the mix of the affordable housing. And we probably have to go through another cycle, but absolutely we would report out what the impact was.
Okay, thank you. And I was just looking for my timer. I don't see one. I don't know if maybe it didn't start. So, but oh, I do have one.
10 minutes from now.
So great. No, I'm wrapping up. That's why I was looking. So
Henry, is that timer up by any chance?
Okay, no worries.
I think that means
I'm
you've
wrapping up.
exceeded 30 minutes probably. I'm joking. Okay.
I am. So I'm actually going to try to come to a motion that incorporates all my colleagues' memos, including the one that I've co-signed with Councilmember Esparza and Jimenez, and also find a way to weave in an ability for you to release the NOFA, but not completely, and I'll describe it. So I'd like to make a motion that does include, again, my memo, Councilmember Arenas, and then the joint memo from, and I'm pulling it up now here, excuse me, the mayor, vice mayor, Councilmember Cohen, Foley, and Mahan. And I'll just add, and I know maybe they'll be speaking to it, so I won't chime in, but I really do appreciate some of the additions there in regards to the county, and I've heard that as well, and I share that sentiment on how we get a match here on how this is done, because we know that the county is funding a lot of projects within the city of San Jose that we may not be funding, and if there's not a match, then it's not going to work as well as we'd like. So I appreciate that and the different analysis that my colleagues are looking to make. Obviously, the one challenge, and Councilmember Arenas excludes our recommendation 1, is in regards to a potential delay of 4 weeks, as you pointed out in your supplemental, Jackie. If we do want to do a little deeper analysis on the census, how we're looking at this census data and the 90th versus the 95th percentile. So my thinking would be, and tell me if this is possible, would be, could we release the NOFA for category 1 and 2, projects that fit within category 1 and 2, and if we don't necessarily have the data right now on the 90th percentile, for the next 4 weeks, if that's what you suggest it will take, could we utilize the Mayor's Game Prevention hotspot areas as a geographic zone? I recognize and I agree with your memo where you said you don't want to use that on an ongoing basis because they change, right, pretty frequently, and it's not exactly a science the way that the 90th percentile would be. And so I would prefer to use the 90th percentile. I'm going to save some of the advocacy on that. I do agree with it for my colleague, Councilmember Esparza. But I would like to see if that's possible, if you think that that would allow us then to release the NOFA now and not have to hold on to it for another 4 weeks.
Yeah, so just to provide additional clarity, our response was it would take the consultant 4 weeks, and then after I said that, Rachel reminded me that then we have to add on the amount of time that staff takes to actually then take their report, put it into a memo, get feedback. So that's another 4 to 6 weeks to do that. So really, to accomplish anything, we're 8 to 12 weeks out to do item number 1 properly. Because it's all part of it would be an iteration, making sure we understand, and then we probably would want to go back to get some feedback on, at least so we know what the community thinks about these changes. So what do I think about then just releasing it with all the definitions except for a change of category 3 by adding the gang prevention hotspots? It's possible to do that.
And this would be the stopgap, right, in my mind. So then you can release a NOFA now. And so I thought maybe 4 weeks. So if it is going to be somewhere upwards of 12 weeks or 8 weeks, if we think we can get it sooner, then at that point we can come back and refine it to really utilize, if we decide we want to, right, the 90th percentile and potentially a different analysis on these census blocks.
Yes, I guess I'm going to look to Rachel if she can recall how much of the gang prevention task force it adds on in terms of restricting the affordable housing.
So we did take a look at the gang prevention hotspots versus what our existing category 3 neighborhoods look like, and we have mapped that. We have looked at that because that was definitely something we did explore and thought through. And so I would say, yes, we have the maps. So, I mean, we could look at that. I think, again, we were hesitant in moving forward that with the gang prevention hotspots for a couple of reasons. One of them, like you mentioned, they do change over time. And I understand if you're trying to make this a one-time thing, that's a little bit different. But we were also, when you look at the distribution across the city of where the housing is and where the people are and everything, that analysis just doesn't take into account where these hotspots are, right? So if you just add those into category 3, that's what changes the analysis. So I think what we just wanted to be careful about and cautious about was moving forward with a policy that's somewhat inconsistent with the information we have about those areas. And it may change how we want to distribute the future units, just because we'll understand the underlying data in a better way, right? Where we may understand that it's a greater percentage of our population that lives in these areas now, and so it just changes all of the math. So we just want to be cautious in moving forward with a significant decision about where affordable housing goes without being able to do some thoughtful work around what it really means.
And I think all of that can be done personally, again, because we're talking about sort of the beginning of this policy and the implementation of it, and recognizing that this is also very common where we don't necessarily have a policy exactly the way that we want it out the gate, and we sometimes come back and refine it, and that's, I think that's where we're at already at the beginning of this. But at the same time, I also understand and don't necessarily want to hold up a NOFA that we've been holding up. And so I'm trying to find a middle ground there to get us to do both, recognizing you have the data for the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force. You've analyzed that. That was an option that we could have chose, but I agree that it's not an option we should choose to stick with. I just think it's a good option that we could do to open up the NOFA now and then allow you to take your time and do the work and come back to present to us the 90th percentile. And at that point, as we move forward and proceed over the next few years and whatever other NOFAs we have, it's either the 90th percentile, or if this body decides, no, we want to stick with the 95, at that point we refine it out of this initial period. This is really just an opportunity to release the NOFA now. Otherwise, if that's, for me, I'd prefer to just wait then and in my mind, get the analysis on the 90th percentile and move forward. So it's an attempt to try to do both over this next, however many weeks. So it sounds like it's possible at least, and I'll hear from my colleagues as to, their opinions. And like I said, I'll defer to my colleague, Councilmember Esparza. I fully agree that I think it's a big miss that these predominantly, historical hotspots within the Mayor's Game Prevention Task Force somehow didn't match up with the data at the 95 percentile level, but they do match better in my mind with the 90th, and that's where, I think there's a real good argument as to why. So I'll make that motion. It'll incorporate everybody's memo and direction, except it's also including, as Councilmember Arenas had excluded our recommendation 1, it would include our recommendation 1 with this caveat that it would allow the NOFA to open up now using Mayor's Game Prevention Task Force hotspots as the additional, criteria in the category 3.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Frost, I'm just going to clarify, make sure I understand exactly the motion. It is to open the NOFA now with a revision to category 3. All of the other elements of your memo are included. Is that right? All the elements of the memorandum signed by 5 of us are also included?
Yes.
And then with regard to Councilmember Arenas' memo, I know that was there were different parts of it.
She had included the also recommendations from our memos.
Right.
She had given some adjustments to it. So for instance, her recommendation 1 had left out our recommendation 1, and so I'm finding a way to include that back in. She had some additions to your recommendation in regards to the locus, this 2A, the location of the affordable housing project category neighborhoods that secured funding upon implementation of the signing policy, to recommendation 3. So that addition, which I was fine with, and the information as well, I'm fine with on 2B, her 2B. I think that it could be, moot if we end up with going to this 90 percentile, but we won't know that until 12 weeks from now.
Okay. So essentially incorporating paragraph 2 or item 2, and the other items appear to be derivative from other memos.
Yes.
Okay. And that's the secondar's understanding as well. Okay, great.
Yes.
Jackie, could I just ask a couple follow-up questions since you're on the topic of crime? I'm trying to understand better how we kind of got it.
Clarifying the motion, Mayor?
No,
Is that what that is?
No, there's a question for Jackie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have my hand up too. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll come right to you. I just want to make sure I understand. I know that there were 2 ways of getting into the category 3 neighborhood designation, being very high poverty or very high crime relative to other neighborhoods in the city. Obviously, the entertainment zone in downtown San Jose is going to have a disproportionately high crime rate because that's where the nightclubs are, even though that might have very little reflection on other social indicators that are relevant that we all care about, income and health and other quality of life indicators. Was that controlled for in any way?
I think what we should do is we have our consultant who actually looked at all this data, and I think the best person to answer these data questions would be Dan, who's on the call.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Dan.
Great, hello. Thank you for having me. And so yes, the violent crime rate is per 1,000 people. So it is intended to be an apples to apples comparison across each of the census tracts in the city.
Yeah, my question is a little different, which is that, I'm looking at the map, and what ends up being category 3 neighborhoods is a large portion of our downtown core, where our entertainment zone is located, and we have a lot of nightclubs. And so there's crime associated with those nightclubs that doesn't necessarily reflect quality of life in the downtown. And I think there would be, obviously there are varying views of this, but some would say that would essentially distort the data. And did we control for that in some way? Since we don't have a large collection of nightclubs in other parts of the city for the most part.
Right. So I'll try to say what I said before differently. If more people live in, if the population density is higher in the downtown, in the area around different nightclubs, then this approach to calculating violent crime rates should account for that, because 20 violent crime incidents there would be different in a much less dense neighborhood. It would be relatively more impactful. And so only calculating violent crime rates relative to the same population should account for what you're describing.
Yeah, I guess the problem is it doesn't reflect the actual population density. So I think we might be talking past each other a little bit here, but
sorry, I should say relative to the population density, like of the residents of the neighborhood, is what I mean.
Right. Okay.
So I think what he's also trying to say is that the density of downtown, because it is the downtown, in most cities, is the highest density of the city.
Yes.
Right? And so because the greatest number of people live there, we're going to anticipate it's going to be absorbed just by the numbers of people, versus in these other districts, you don't have this level of density that one would expect in a downtown area. So it evens out because of the numbers of the population.
Yeah, I guess the challenge I'm grappling with is, first, we have had a particular challenge in building the residential density we'd all love to have in the downtown. It is still, there are large swaths of the downtown where it's entirely commercial and office, along Alma Avenue, for example. So we just don't have a typical downtown density. It's actually quite a bit lower, even though we do have a few high rises. Unfortunately, not many. And I just think about other challenges with using crime data. For example, we know about the fact that in many neighborhoods, there's much lower reporting rates. And so that's going to affect. And I guess all this is getting to the question of, why wouldn't we just use income as a proxy for whatever we're really trying to get at? Because crime is so very difficult to define in so many ways, in a way that really accurately reflects what's going on the ground. The data is challenging. Why aren't we just relying on income?
I will defer again to our consultant, Dan, to jump in on that question.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So, and by income, you mean poverty rate, I would assume.
Yes, that would be certainly one way to do it, yeah.
Okay. Right, so the idea here in defining category 3 areas is to select criteria that academic research has shown are very strongly related to outcomes for residents, particularly residents of affordable housing. And so on the one hand, the data and the research is really clear on the negative impacts that concentrated poverty can have on outcomes. And that's what the high poverty threshold is intended to capture. The data is also clear on the negative impacts of living in proximity to high rates of violent crime, especially on kids, but on all populations. And these often correlate with each other, but not always. And so, the idea here was to use the same data source that has been used in studies across the country. And so those are the crime categories that Jackie described earlier, the 4 violent crime categories that the police department reports to the FBI each year. And to establish what is a very high threshold for defining a neighborhood or a census tract that is particularly high in violent crime rates. And so that's why the 95th percentile was selected, is because San Jose is a relatively low crime city, even if some parts of it have higher rates of crime. And there, the data that we looked at showed a pretty significant jump from the 90th to the 95th percentile, suggesting that exposure to crime is meaningfully higher in those areas. And so the idea is to just identify the few areas of the city where, from the perspective of the goals of the siting policy, the city should be, potentially concerned about resident outcomes in a way similar to what they would in a high poverty area.
Okay.
And Mayor, we also looked at this whole issue and looked at the Public Safety Committee regarding the kind of data polls they make when they're looking at these types of issues, and this is the same data poll that they traditionally start with. So even Gang Prevention Task Force traditionally looks at this data pool when they're even making their own decisions. They do take it a step further because they have this iterative process by which they engage the 100+ groups that are part of their initiative. But it's very common to use this data to make those connections between outcomes. And it's used in the city and other departments.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess, there are other indicators we could go look at. For example, we could look at areas that have high NOx and SOx pollution sources like freeways, right? And we could think of a lot of different indicators that severely affect quality of life. And many of these are also really highly correlated with poverty. And so I guess what I'm saying is I think we're about to go down a very deep rabbit hole because I can know the questions are coming all about this crime issue. And I can't help but think at the end of this, we will have created a lot more heat than light with all the work we're doing to try to really refine whether a neighborhood goes into this category or that one based on crime. And what I think we really want to get at is fundamentally this issue of poverty and opportunity. And I can't help but think that by the end of this, we might just say, hey, and by the end of this, I mean, maybe it's years from now, we might just look at this and say, it's a lot just simpler if we just look at income or poverty or something like that. Anyway, okay, Councilmember Esparza.
Thank you, Mayor. And I actually really appreciate where you were going with that. I pulled a memo, a previous city memo going back decades, and the 1989 dispersion policy looked at income, and I pulled, and it had a range to, and then later on in 2009, they looked at having a range to include a family of 4 making between 0 and 85 a year. So that was done in 2009 by in a memo signed by Leslie Krutko. The original memo from 1989, I just wanted to acknowledge the work from then Councilmember Blanca Alvarado, who brought forward the city's dispersion policy out of concerns about disproportionate impacts to the low-income communities that she represented back then. And so it's, this conversation isn't new, I guess. And so I actually really do appreciate the points that you're raising. And so I did want to thank a few folks. I wanted to thank Councilmember Perales for his leadership. He had been talking about the dispersion policy when I got here, and it was already a concern then. And then I wanted to really thank the mayor, the vice mayor, and council members Cohen, Foley, and Mann for their memo, basically stepping up and saying, hey, let's figure out a way to bring more affordable housing to our resource-rich communities. And so I wanted to thank you for that tonight, because we've had many discussions over equity, and this is part of it, right? This is part of it. It's our neighborhoods, our residents are crying out, and that's what probably came through in the memo and tonight from the folks coming to speak. I also wanted to thank Councilmember Arenas for her memo. I thought, I think one of the things, similar to COVID, we are learning we are not an island. We have to have these conversations with the county. We have to align with the county. We can go in one direction, the county's going to go in another direction. Permanent supportive housing is the county. right? Even if we went our own direction, the county provides, they're the supportive and the permanent supportive housing. And Councilmember Perales and I have the two of the largest permanent supportive housing developments in the nation, not in the county, not in the state, but in the nation. And so when we give our feedback and when our residents give their feedback, it's based on experience. And I think that's part of the goal, is to have real conversations about what it takes to move forward, so that we're not back in 1989 having the same conversations or having the same conversations as we had in 1989. And I wanted to bring up a couple of points before I brought up some other related issues. So one of them is, I actually really appreciate the issue of bringing services to Category 3 areas. That's part of equity. The discussions that we had around equity a couple of years ago, it wasn't about necessarily programming, right? It was about the roads, it was about the services, it was about the housing, it was about all of it. And I'll offer two things that I think would go a long way in developments in Category 3 communities, and providing services that would alleviate pressure on the surrounding neighborhoods. And that is, one, medical clinic and services on site for both the residents and the neighborhood. Renaissance Place, the county's largest permanent supportive housing development, opened in District 7 in January of last year. I'm still waiting for a clinic. I'm still waiting for on-site services. And in 2020, Renaissance Place, remember, it had just opened. It had 207 fire calls, 213 PD calls, for a total of 420 calls. This year, police calls at Renaissance Place just through July beat that number slightly by 214 calls. Some of that is security related, that having on-site security would help. I don't just represent the district that has the largest police district. I represent the busiest fire station in the city, well, actually probably in the county as well. So we need to provide services on site so that residents don't have to wait longer to have an ambulance show up to their heart attack, right? So these are real issues that impact whole neighborhoods. And then we can go into the luxuries of libraries and community centers and things like that. But neighborhoods like mine aren't even getting a basic level of service. So I just wanted to remind folks of a couple of things. District 3 and District 7 have by far the most affordable units. District 7 has the most extremely low income and the most permanent supportive housing units today. That's going to change. I think Councilmember Perales will beat me soon, in the city. District 7 has the lowest market rate units in the city. But together, District 3 and District 7 includes 54% of the extremely low income units citywide, and nearly 40% of the total affordable housing units in the city. So if I went back to 1989 or 2009, it would still be District 3 and District 7. So I do want to appreciate the analysis and work that went into develop this policy. I wanted to just keep it real, to be rooted in experience and in the realities that we face on the ground. And that is just to state the obvious about high violent crime that underpins the Category 3 designation, that doesn't fit with the facts on the ground. It doesn't fit with the community's experience. It doesn't fit with the police department's experience. And furthermore, it doesn't fit with the city's experience with the other programs that we work in. For example, the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force and other programs that we offer as a city. This methodology places Nagley Park in Category 3, or amongst the most dangerous and highest concentration of poverty neighborhoods within our city, while the Owsley neighborhood, where we've had a number of shootings, is designated Category 2. Under this methodology, the Rose Garden is placed in Category 2, the same designation as the Rock Springs community, where again, I've had some homicides within the past year. If somebody truly stands by this methodology, I would challenge you to take a walk in the Rose Garden or Nagley Park on a Friday night, and then take a walk in Owsley or Rock Springs and tell me that you feel the same level of safety. And the fact is, as Councilmember Carrasco has brought up many times, that she drives to other neighborhoods to go on her runs. She's a better jogger than I am, but she goes to other neighborhoods to do that. And so saying that these very disparate communities with radically different experiences of violent crime fall into the same category, it just ignores and discounts the experiences of those communities. And under the proposed definition, only 33% of the designated gang hotspots would fall under Category 3. Many of the communities that suffer from the worst violent crime in my district are excluded. Only a relatively small portion of Police District Lincoln is included in Category 3. Again, Police District Lincoln is wholly within District 7, and it is by far the busiest police district in the entire city. So that's what I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And so I just would note, and I could go into the methodology, I just think that Councilmember Peralez's motion for a little bit of extra time would make sense. The other issue with the methodology, I'll just cut to one other issue, with the 95 percentile cutoff, this determination was made due to a combination of two factors, one being a jump in crime between the 90th and 95th percentile, and the other being a comparison in gun violence between San Jose and other Bay Area cities, including Oakland and San Francisco. So comparing us to Oakland and San Francisco for violent crime is an unhelpful metric. We are San Jose, we should be looking at San Jose crime and San Jose resources. And so I wanted to say that redoing this analysis with an adjusted methodology that more accurately captures our high crime areas, it'll take some time, it'll take some resources, but I believe that a policy that is going to impact our neighborhoods, our communities for decades to come is worth taking another month or maybe 2 months to get it right. And the cost to getting this wrong for our communities far outweighs the $10,000 for a consultant so that we can get this right. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis?
Thank you. I want to thank you, Jackie, for your personal story. Of course, thank the staff for all the work, but your story really drives home why we think that mixed income neighborhoods are a societal good, and I think we do all agree on that point, and it's just the methodology about how we get there. That's the question. But I do want to ask you about, I think your first goal was about being in line with state and federal policies. What are those state and federal policies, and why do we need one if state and federal policies already exist that talk about siting and where affordable housing should go?
Well, affirmatively furthering fair housing means that we need to be proactive in dismantling ways where we're actually not meeting the goals of fair housing. So in this case, when we look at how we fund, we've been able to see that we're not funding in all areas of the city. And so affirmatively furthering fair housing says we need to be proactive in making a change in our policy and how we fund in order to ensure that all parts of the city are available and have affordable housing.
Okay.
So it used to be you could just, the federal government didn't ask you to be proactive. It just said, you know, you could be investigating fair housing abuses. But now really it's saying you need to look to see where these, where you're seeing the inequities and to take action against them. So hence why we're doing this as well.
So are you saying we're required to do this?
We're required to see where we have inequities in our system and to address them. And so this is one situation where we can clearly see that our funding is not evenly being distributed across the city. And so this is a policy that is proposed to make those changes, and that would be consistent with that affirmatively furthering fair housing law.
Okay, it looked to me, and I'll admit it was there was a lot, so I may have missed it. It looked to me like we were looking at the current distribution of existing and pipeline affordable housing, not only things that we have funded. Only projects that we have funded. So did we look at only what we funded and whether it's disparate?
No, when we looked at all of the affordable housing to see everywhere where it's placed, we could see that in cumulative, there is a disparity on where housing is going.
So I understand that, but
Yeah.
my understanding is that at least and I'm going to get them wrong because I always forget what they're called. The state agencies, the CIDLAC and the TCAC, they've had their policies for only 5 years, so it may have been predating policies that already exist. So yes, I understand where we are right now, but if it's already kind of changing because of what exists, then I don't understand if are we solving a problem, or are we creating more barriers for affordable housing to get built because they already have so many different hoops to jump through, as we know, especially in getting their funding stack. And if the policy about siting is somewhere else in their funding stack, then why should we duplicate that work?
Because if the state opportunity zones have been available for 5 years, we have not seen locally developers try to shift into opportunity areas. We've recently seen them begin to shift because we've been talking for the last 2 years that we're going to create a policy, and we've been talking about what that policy is going to look like. And as a result, we do have one developer who's actively looking, and for the first time now have 3 potential sites in an Opportunity 1 neighborhood. So what we know is that the behavior of our local developers did not change because we continued to fund in the same ways. If we want to see the behavior change,
But don't they need CIDLAC and TCAC to do their projects?
They do,
as
and
well?
they do, and they had been up until the last year getting funding to get there, to move forward.
Right,
Over
and
the
we know
last
that
year.
they can't move forward. Like without CIDLAC, there are projects that aren't gonna happen because of that.
Correct, but just so in the last year and a half, we saw there were 2 rounds of which no City of San Jose project got funded, and at one point there were no Bay Area projects that got funded.
Right.
That could have gotten funded had they been located in opportunity areas. It didn't shift the developers' thinking in terms of where they would go. So I think we really need to take a local action, because our funding is the first funding that goes in.
So I have to continue to press on this, because did it not shift them because they have some desire to go into the areas where they are, or because that's where the opportunities are for them? And if we create a policy that cuts out those areas, and I completely understand Councilmember Esparza's and Councilmember Peralez's, I mean, my district's number 3, so I get it. But if we cut out those areas, does that mean we will get less affordable housing?
So like I said, since we've had these discussions, we've seen one developer who's actively switched to looking to opportunity areas, parcels, and has been able to acquire 3 of them. And part of our work that we've agreed to we need to do in this first phase is to help developers identify sites and also ensure that the city doesn't have barriers that's preventing us from developing in Category 1 neighborhoods.
Okay, so what if after 3 years we haven't met our target of 30% of projects in Category 1, but we have more projects elsewhere? Are we just not going to fund them so that we're forced into these categories?
We are proposing not to fund. We are proposing to fund as we have outlined. So,
but if we don't have any applications in Category 1, or we don't have even 30% of our applications are in category 1,
So one
what
of the
happens?
things, yeah, so we're shifting money into this acquisition and pre-development fund. And so we're anticipating that that would help to build a future pipeline for development to come forward within the city in category 1 neighborhoods.
Within the first 3 years, so that we get to 30% total over the first 3 years.
Correct. The goal would be to begin to see more development in category 3. And one of the reasons why we have different percentages in the first phase is to ensure that we can at least fund some category 3 developments that are in, that we know that are in the pipeline or where developers have already put money down. So again, there's a lot of room in category 2 where we've seen development go. There's a healthy amount of opportunity in category 2 in the short run. So we don't anticipate in the next 3 years that we would not be able to use all of our funding per the areas that we've defined. I think there is a question when we begin to shift more dramatically, will we be able to meet those targets? And we will have a better idea after the first 3 years if we're going to be successful in that. Because, you know, again, developers buy land way in advance before they even seek our funding. So we can
Or
track
they put
to see their
options
movement.
on it. They don't necessarily purchase it.
Well, they put options on it, exactly. So we know where they're moving and where they're not moving to. But what we know right now is that they're waiting for this policy and have concerns about moving forward until we have finished this work.
Okay. I appreciated your comments on acknowledging the differential impacts of permanent supportive housing versus affordable housing that the neighbors had brought up. And by the way, I want to say all the public comment was very helpful, and it does help to hear that from the public as opposed to the council members only. So I appreciated your comments about deducting points for permanent supportive housing in category 3, giving more points for permanent supportive housing and family, I think is what I heard in category 1. But what about the neighborhoods that are in category 2 that have permanent supportive housing already, 1 or 2 in the same neighborhood? Are you doing any kind of proximity for that? I mean, because we have such a big city and we have a very, very different neighborhoods, having 3 categories makes every category very broad, right? So I am concerned about that, and I've heard from neighbors in District 3 about permanent supportive housing and how that has changed their neighborhood and the concerns. And I think Councilmember Esparza was very eloquent in her recitation of what she has seen and what, frankly, services have been promised but haven't come or have been delayed in coming. So I am concerned about that. How does this policy account for that, especially in category 2?
So we are trying to be broad because we want to increase opportunities across the spectrum. We don't want to stop affordable housing being developed in the city of San Jose. The policy's perspective is on the experience of the tenants who are being served, and the policy is focused on achieving and meeting a fair housing component. So we don't address in this specific policy the impacts to the neighborhoods, because the policy is not trying to adjust the impacts to the neighborhoods. The policy is designed to provide
Jackie,
the impacts.
if you're putting in, and I understand that, we've talked about this before, but if you're putting in a permanent supportive housing development next to 2 affordable permanent supportive housing developments, that's not creating a mixed income neighborhood, which we've all agreed is what we're trying to achieve. So I think what I understand what you're saying about not talking about the residents of the neighborhood who are not in the affordable housing, but I don't think it serves the prospective development either, and the people who will live there. And that's why I'm asking.
So I think we would want to be careful regarding any kind of limitations that we place on people who live in permanent supportive housing, because right now 100% of people who live in permanent supportive housing are defined as chronically disabled. And so we would want to make sure that we are not limiting their choice to housing and their opportunity to housing and where they go into the city.
I don't see how that addresses their quality of life if there is a concentration of permanent supportive housing developments in one 6-block radius.
So the one piece where we have made a modification, and we did do this in response to the neighborhood, is on a census block level. If more than 50% of the housing is affordable, so we're not distinguishing between permanent supportive housing or affordable, but if it's affordable, then we would not continue to fund in that census block. So we do have one additional policy that got created as a result of the neighborhood concern. But it applies to all affordable housing. We don't distinguish between permanent supportive and affordable.
Okay, and I share the concerns of Councilmember Esparza and Councilmember Perales about the permanent supportive housing. It is different, and we see that in the calls for service, that it is different.
Right, and I guess what I would also say is that we see those same calls of service for people who are in the streets, and we know that the permanent supportive housing needs some time in order to adjust. So we have had some challenges moving people right off the streets into housing, and the behavior of people who have been on the streets utilizing the same resources they've used in the past. So calling the police or calling fire for medical needs when potentially they even have resources on site, but not utilizing those, but utilizing services that they've become more familiar with. And so there is, and we understand, a need for time and adjustment for these housing sites to settle down for an entire group of people, because it is unusual to have an entire group of people move into one building at the same time that have a higher need. And so that has been challenging for the developments to absorb. And so we are learning and we're iterating through the process and how we can improve and increase those services to try to limit their impacts on the neighborhoods.
And
but I think the solution to that is really looking at those individual developments and improving and creating more opportunity there than to try to limit a specific type of housing.
Okay. Are there extra points for the 78% of census blocks that have zero affordable housing? So you have the census block, no funding if they have greater than 50% affordable housing. What about the 78% that have zero affordable housing? Is there extra points?
So yeah, I understand the question. So the way that the policy addresses that is if you take a look at category 1, we have a very small amount of our affordable housing in that category. And so what we're doing is prioritizing funding in category 1, which is chipping away at that 78% that currently does not have affordable housing in it. So it's very,
so what's
it's
the overlap
consistent.
on the 78% versus the amount that's in the area that's in category 1? How many of this 78% of the census blocks are in the category 1?
So of all affordable housing in category 1, there is just 9% of those.
Right. Is it what I'm asking is
affordable.
it concentrated in specific census blocks?
I don't have it in front of me to look.
We can do the Venn diagram another time.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to think of trying to get the overlap there.
But that's really what's happening is we're prioritizing areas of the city that don't have affordable housing.
Sure. So can we when you report on this and come back to this, can you tell us which projects are going into a census block that previously did not have any affordable housing?
Yes, that's something we could track.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that will help residents to understand at a much deeper level than just the categories.
Sure.
What is changing?
And we would probably indicate which census tracts have very limited opportunities, right? So ultimately,
Sure.
when we do the kind of the site review in category 1 neighborhoods, which is what we're going to try to dig more deeply into, I think that's where we would have an opportunity to say, here's where there are opportunities for development, and then here's the swaths of land where there's no opportunity. And
Right.
so council, given everything we know and we've learned, how would you like us to proceed and what shifts? So it's our intention after that work that we could potentially have modifications because there could be limited land use. We don't know.
Right. And what's the timeline on that work? I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Sure. So that's going to be, we're going to start an evaluation beginning after the first year. And so we anticipate being able to bring these full package of recommendations before we start that next that next period, next phase.
So we'll be talking about this next year in August?
We did.
Like a year from now?
We did commit to providing an annual update to the Community and Economic Development Committee on the implementation of the policy. That's about how we're going to be also releasing funds, and as we release funds is really when we're going to be able to analyze it. So it it will be following those release of funds, and then we can see what types of projects came up and that what has moved forward in our funding
Oh, no,
rounds.
I understand that. I'm talking about the work for the availability of sites.
Oh, okay.
We're either going to have to hire a consultant, or we're going to have to see if we'll be able to get what we need through the housing element as they're identifying parcels. And so the housing element is going to be done in a year and a half.
Okay.
So I would say in 2 years, we would be coming back with a complete analysis of parcels and land availability, general plan zoning issues.
So we'll be going through our first phase. We'll be 2/3 of the way through the first phase before we even know if there are enough sites in category 1 for us to actually get to our 30% goal in category 1. Just the timing is a little.
I think we're also going to know pretty quickly who responds to the NOFA, and we're also going to be very quick about getting out our acquisition funding. And the thing about acquisition funding too, just to understand, is that it moves very quickly. Just by the nature of it, it's very easy to buy something for $7 million. Do you know what I mean? Like it can actually just be a couple of transactions and spend money pretty quickly. So I think within a year we're going to be able to tell you,
Okay.
it's not looking good or we're halfway there.
Okay. Yeah. That's really helpful. And then the final thing, I understand, and I really appreciate you guys spending the time, and I wasn't paying any attention to the timer. I'm sorry to my colleagues for that.
This is the final question.
This is the final
Okay,
question. You talked about the ABAG report and the deed restricted affordable housing and the percentage of people eligible for affordable housing. Did that report, and you can just point me to it if it did it include what is naturally occurring affordable housing or rent controlled affordable housing?
No, it does not include those.
So this is part B to my question then. Do we have information on that?
Yes, we do have information about the number of rent-restricted apartments in San Jose because we track those. Yes, we have that.
Okay. I'd like an overlay of the two. But again, we can take that offline. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Foley.
Okay, thank you. This is really a valuable discussion. Thank you so much for the presentation, Rachel and Jackie. The siting policy is important for us to take a look at, all these 3 categories. But I have some questions for you. So the idea is to create affordable housing in those areas, those resource-rich areas. So category 1, let's talk about that. Much of my district is category 1, part of it is category 2. And I have currently about 6 projects that are affordable housing projects being proposed by developers where they have site control or close to site control. As a developer, walk me through how this siting policy will benefit those developers in category 1 areas as far as funding goes. And then if you could expand upon the reduction in red tape, because you mentioned that you could reduce the bureaucracy and the red tape. I'd wonder if you could expand a little bit on what that means.
I'll start, and then Rachel can fill in anything I don't cover. So the first part is we're setting aside funds for category 1 neighborhoods. So the majority of our funding would be set aside for your developers who need or would like to access City of San Jose funding. So instead of everybody being on an even playing field, regardless of where you're located, the category 1 neighborhoods have more money set aside for them. In addition, we would be creating a fund for them to access money for land acquisition or pre-development funding. And sometimes that money can be very expensive if they don't have access to it themselves. So if they don't have their own fund, borrowing that money can be expensive because it's risky if you don't complete the project. And so that would be another area. And when I'm talking about red tape, the city does require a complete process. We can't move fast because we have to have internal reviews, legal reviews, and then we have to go into city council to have an approval. So just the time processing is not something that we can move fast. If the funds are in a CDFI, they don't have to write up a report to a city council. They can approve the loan based on the parameters that we give them.
Okay, now some of these developers, and actually I would say maybe all of them, are using state legislation to bring their projects to fruition. That does not require city council approval. So in that case, how under SB 35 or AB 2162, how will the siting policy benefit those developers or will it?
It only benefits
and I'm not
them
looking
if
for
they
a right or
want-
wrong answer.
It only benefits them if they want city funding.
Okay. And the strings attached to the city funding can you walk me through those a little bit?
Sure. The strings attached are we place so depending upon the level of investment, we would purchase the land so that we could hold land in perpetuity for a public purpose. And in addition to that, we place deed restrictions on the property for a minimum of 55 years.
So the deed restriction part I don't have a concern about, and in fact I assumed you would say that. Are you saying that the city would acquire the land and become the owner of the property? Tell me about that. Who owns the real estate?
Sure. So the city's underwriting guidelines specifically say that the city will purchase the land and then will provide a ground lease to the developer, and then the developer has a ground lease to operate the building, and they'll be responsible for the improvements on the land. What this does is gives us a real seat at the table at the end of 55 years, which we know will happen someday, and we really see it as a way to maintain long-term affordability for that development, so that the city owns the property and will be is basically part of the deal when decisions are made about the property in the future.
So the developer would not have an ability to buy out the city's interest in the property, or it would occur after the 50, and I'm sorry, this is kind of getting in the weeds a little bit, but it helps me understand why a developer would choose these NOFA funds over other sources of funds when they, and how they're balancing out their finances in developing a project. I forgot where I was going with that. How is there an opportunity for a developer to buy out, not the ground lease, but buy the property from the city, and at what point can they do that?
I guess there would be an opportunity. It's just that the city is not interested in that opportunity.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's not really on the table.
The county also has the same requirement.
No, yeah, I understand that, and I wasn't sure if that was included in this in our requirement for these NOFA funds and included in the siting policy. All right. Well, I appreciate all of the memos, and I appreciate the motion that has been made. I'm sensitive to the concerns of Councilmember Perales and Councilmember Esparza regarding the crime rate and not focusing just on the high poverty rate. I agree that we need to build affordable housing all over the city, and I'm really happy to see affordable housing projects come into District 9, whether it be through NOFA funds or however they build it. I'm really happy to see that. They don't come without a lot of work, though, because in many of those areas, District 9, 10, 1, somewhat 4, other District 2, there's a lot of single-family residential property, and when you're building high multi-story affordable housing units, the residents need, the neighboring residents, let me put it that way, need to have a lot of community outreach, and so we discussed with them what can be done to mitigate the high walls against their house. So those are the issues of moving high density into the suburbs, let's say, but it's a necessary thing that needs to be done. And we work tirelessly at District 9 to try to make sure that they happen, and we have several coming forward, as I'm really proud to say. The other thing that I'll point out is that developers look at the value of the land and what they can build in relation to that, and property values. The reason I think we're seeing some development in District 9 is because it's more affordable real estate, that they're able to pick up properties, not at deals, but they can get real estate where other areas it might be more expensive for them to move into. So I support the siting policy. I support this as we go forward. I support the opportunity to build affordable housing and supportive housing throughout our city. I think it's really important. And with that, I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rennes?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start off by thanking our staff, Jackie and Rachel, for all the work that you're doing, as well as my council members who have been on this issue and keeping track of it, and Councilmember Perales for combining all of our memos. I really appreciate that. It just speaks to how aligned we are in terms of the efforts that we really want to make and the impact that we want to make in this city. It is really not enough to say that we are supporting equity, that we are equity-centered, to sign a pledge, and then not support policies that undo some of the some of the most racist policies that have created generational poverty. And so this is an opportunity, and I want to congratulate you. You're going to create opportunity and history for our kiddos and for our families. And, you know, we're going down the rabbit hole on some of these issues because it's important, but I don't want it to be that point to be lost. Because Jackie, you talked about your experience, and And, you know, the experiences of so many kids who might have not, you know, you had some really great opportunities. And last night I went to this fundraiser for Evergreen Valley College. It's a STEM-based program that targets children who are living in impoverished neighborhoods who may not have these opportunities. So they're taking these opportunities to these children, STEM-based opportunities. And that's their way of creating some of that equity and undoing some of those policies. And this is our way. And for all of us here as council members, we are focused on policy, and this is by far, I think, one of the most significant and pivotal policies in undoing some of the racial segregation and creating generational poverty from past policies. And this is really being anti-racist, right? That's the solution for racism and for systemic racism. And the research shows that it's not enough just to say you're not racist. You have to actually do something about it. And doing something about it is creating policy. And so this is centered at the generations to come, because I know this will take time to do. And I know this disbursement will then give lots of kiddos around the city an opportunity like yours, right? I certainly didn't have that opportunity. I grew up, unfortunately, in some of the most uninvested school districts. I won't mention which one it is. And I think about some of those kiddos who are growing up in the same situations and same family risk factors in terms of, you know, not having enough. And I think about how far they're going to go because you created and that we all took part of this policy. And that we invested in those opportunities. And I think about what I was thinking about are the kiddos and the faces of those kids in last night's fundraiser, and the opportunities that these programs offer just really will change lives. I really wish that when I was walking home, I would have tree-lined streets, but that wasn't the case, and there was a lot of folks' cars that would stop and try to, you know, just try to involve you in crazy stuff that a student shouldn't be exposed to and involved in as they're walking home. And I'm, you know, every generation wants to do better than the past generation. And I'm really absolutely grateful that my parents were able to give me the opportunity to own a home, to provide a different experience and different opportunities for my child. And, you know, my son goes to a really great school in our neighborhood. But I think about those kiddos who are not, and that's not the standard for a lot of children of color. And we are the exceptions, right? And I'd really love to reverse that. And so, you know, I'm wholeheartedly supporting this motion, and I do understand that the 90% and 95% difference doesn't really capture some of these neighborhoods that have been hotspots since forever. Anecdotally, we can just say that we have that research already. anyways, so I completely understand where Councilmember Esparza and Councilmember Perales were coming from in trying to capture those neighborhoods, and I think that's really important. I just wanted to make sure that we continued to move forward because this policy is just so important. Anyways, I didn't want to lose that point in terms of what we are creating here today. And we're not creating an inconvenience to neighborhoods that have a lot of opportunities. We're providing opportunities for the future. So I'm really proud of this policy, and I'm proud to serve during this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember, I'm going to skip you, Councilmember Perales, and go to Councilmember Cohen. Yes, I'm sorry, Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for their thoughtful input on this important policy. I think it's definitely important that we make an effort to site affordable housing across the city and across in locations where we don't have enough of it today. I am a little bit, want to raise a question about whether we think. I think Councilmember Davis was kind of alluding to this about whether we have places. We think there's enough places in these Category 1 areas, except away from certain places where we're already putting affordable housing. I mean, it seems to me that they'll be concentrated in certain places in Category 1, but a lot of Category 1 areas are zoned in a certain way that it would be unlikely that we'd be able to cite affordable housing developments there. Is that true? I mean, especially in these single family areas in the outskirts, we talk about a lot of these census tracts that have no affordable housing. How likely is it that we'd be able to penetrate many of those areas with affordable housing developments? Or is it most likely that these affordable housing developments would be kind of concentrated in just certain denser areas of Category 1 parts of the city?
Thank you, Councilmember, for the question. So there's there's definitely some layers to think about this issue. First of all, affordable housing developers and just the way we think about it is generally going to be focused on urban villages and growth areas that have been identified by the city because honestly, even when they go in to work through the development process, if they're in an area like that, it's going to go much quicker for them because that is an opportunity for them to take advantage of the state streamlining opportunities and all of that. So their number one priority is going to be finding sites that are consistent with the city's general plan for growth. Right. That's just the natural place. And then if they have looked through all Category 1 and there's nothing, available, which I don't believe, just because we've already been working with developers who have found sites for affordable housing development in these areas. So I believe they're out there. I feel like, again, we have one developer who has 3 sites, but then every week I talk to another one who has found another one and found another, so they're there. It's just some areas where they may not have been looking very hard before. But they know that this is where we're going with the policy and they're out there searching. So I think it's possible. I think it may take a little bit more work, but I think it's available. As we go forward, we're going to learn, right? We're going to learn and we're going to find out if we need to, again, like we have our housing element process coming up, that's a perfect time for us to look through the entire city, look at it with this lens and determine if there's opportunity to just identify different areas where we'd like to see growth and work through the normal planning processes to identify those areas.
And I don't doubt that there's a lot of locations in Category 1. I guess I was just pointing out that there were some people commenting about starting with areas where there's census tracts where there's zero affordable housing, and there's going to remain census tracts where there are zero, and it's impossible to cite it. And I just kind
That
of
is
pointing
true.
that out just because, by definition, because of zoning, there are areas where we're just not going to be able to place it and cite it. And,
Right.
and I think that was just kind of wanted to make that point.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And then I'll just make one other comment, and it just say to Nora that when we settle with Santa Clara, I'm looking forward to seeing the affordable housing bar for this D4 actually move to the left and grow taller than D3 and D7 and be the biggest affordable housing. And I'll be very happy for some supportive housing to be part of that. But I expect that bar to grow significantly once we get that lawsuit settled in D4.
All right, Councilmember Mann.
Thanks, Vice Mayor, and I'll try to be quick. I took enough of Jackie and Rachel's time on this item over the last month as we had a few conversations. I will say to Councilmember Cohen's last comment, District 10 has certainly lagged in the building of affordable housing. I am happy to report that we have one project approved and ready to break ground, another very close to being ready for approval, and at least one more developer in the pipeline who's actively looking, and I'm very supportive of all three of those projects. So hope to see our bar on the chart jump as well over the coming years. So I'm very supportive of the direction and intention of the policy. I think along the lines of some of the questions Councilmember Davis asked, I had, and we talked about this offline, just have concerns about potential trade-offs. Are we going to be giving up the opportunity to build the units we need because of policies being too restrictive? And I think at this point I'm satisfied. I'm glad to hear that staff believes that trade-off doesn't exist. I think that's great. And that the land is not more expensive in Category 1 necessarily. It's not necessarily going to be harder to find it and build it. So I'll just say I'm glad that we're going to be coming back in June of 2022, is my understanding, according to the motion on the floor, to assess whether or not things are playing out as we expect. I think my biggest concern with this kind of policy is just unintended consequences. I think the intention is absolutely in the right place. It's just a question of what do we not know when we get into implementation. I did want to try to ask maybe two quick questions on downtown. And one, I'm going to try to rephrase the mayor's question. Maybe the third time is the charm. And I'm just maybe more intellectually curious about this than anything. I think the point he was getting at, and he's not here, so he can't tell me if I'm right or wrong about this, is that typically when we would think about the impacts of crime, we would think about the impact on the people living in the neighborhood. And I think his argument is, in downtown in particular, at a place like a nightclub, you could have two residents from even a different city who are there who get into an altercation, who get arrested, and it may not reflect the impact on the residents of downtown directly. And so you could see inflated crime in very specific areas with a lot of nightlife, for example, that may have absolutely nothing to do with the impact or the residents who actually sleep at night in that area. And so Mayor's not here to confirm that, but I guess that might argue, and I guess I'd also be interested to explore as this conversation continues to evolve from, was it 1989 on, whether or not poverty and income actually is simply the best proxy. Because I think we could have distortions in the data just based on something like that particular nuance about that given neighborhood. So I don't know if it's worth re-asking the consultant on that, but I'll ask another sort of question about downtown. I guess my fear is that the trend line toward much of the true urban core of San Jose is toward a tremendous amount of investment and wealth creation, and we're talking about BART coming and downtown West, and I worry that potentially in 10 or 15 years, we're gonna look back and say, wow, downtown is the most vibrant, transit-rich, resource-rich neighborhood in the entire city, and now it's really expensive to buy land, and we're gonna have a hard time building any more affordable housing here. And so I guess I guess the question is that a concern that you share at all, and how would we, I guess as we check in, we can make adjustments, but it just seems to me that the very urban core of downtown feels a little different than maybe some of the other neighborhoods in D3 and D7 that we're talking about.
Sure. I mean, I think the other thing that the policy does, so one of the things we did was we tried to project out how much money and how many projects we could fund in category 3 in the next 3 years. And I believe we said potentially 3. So 3 projects. And so the policy also says, if we're going to fund 3 projects in category 3, we are also going to prioritize in category 3 neighborhoods where we see things like potential growth, redevelopment, gentrification, displacement. So if they are actually going into a neighborhood that we can see, there's an obvious reason, lots of redevelopment happening here, this great potential, but it's still category 3, we're going to direct our funding there versus here's a category 3 neighborhood where we know potentially there's no redevelopment going in there. It does have this high crime, high poverty. It's a struggling neighborhood. If we have the choice to put the development somewhere, we're going to fund the development where we see the displacement, the neighborhood change, the investment going in. And so that the policy is designed to give priority to growth areas, to fight displacement, in changing neighborhoods, even in a category 3 environment. So it is still possible to be in this category 3 place and be subject to other forces. And the policy acknowledges that, and we then prioritize those developments in those areas.
Great. I'm really glad to hear that you're thinking about it that way. I feel like downtown, in the most urban part of downtown, feels to me like the one place where we might want to skate to where the puck is likely going. It does seem like with the investments that we are currently seeing and anticipating that it may be very different from many of the other category 3 neighborhoods currently on the map.
And if the downtown is in a category 3, we would also then give negative points to permanent supportive housing that's coming into the downtown because we know we already have some there. And so that would be the additional layer of work that the staff's going to have to do in evaluating projects. So for projects that are in category 3, there will be competition for those funds, and there will be some decisions that have to be made in alignment with what we have provided here tonight that will really fund those projects that meet the criteria.
Thank you, and looking forward to seeing what we've learned by June of next year. That's all I had.
Thank you. Councilmember Carrasco.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to start off by just thanking staff. This is a complicated issue that, the solutions are not simplistic. But as we dig deeper, it even gets, I think, more complicated. I really appreciate also the comments by my council members, as well as the memos that were submitted. I'm going to ask Tony if she could repeat the motion on the floor.
I have that all memos are moved, including the first item from the Jimenez Esparza Perales memo, which was not explicitly included in Councilmember Reynes's memo. So all items and all memos, and allow the NOFA to open now using Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force as criteria for category 3. I think I got it. Yeah.
Yes.
And this includes that additional time, though, before solidifying our policy? That was a question.
It would yes, in essence, yes. Okay. Yeah, it would, as staff said, it would take around maybe 12 weeks or so to be able to come back with this further analysis. But we would be allowed to move forward now with this NOFA, with the current policy that we have, just with the addition for the category 3 to include the hotspot areas.
Sorry, there's a lot of commotion going on in my neighborhood, and so to my point, I wanted to speak on this, and I'm glad that we're taking more time to really look at the data and the info. Councilmember Esparza did such a great job in positioning one neighborhood with the other that fall under the same categories. And this has been the concern that I've had from the very beginning when I saw this. But you know, I live in of course District 5, very close to what used to be the National Hispanic University, and I'm sandwiched in between city and county lines. I'm right on the corner of, you know, if I just step 20 feet to the left, I'm in county, and if I stay where I am, I'm in city. I mean, this is the block that I'm on. And I've mentioned before, and Councilmember Esparza reminded me of all the times that I've talked about getting in my car, driving all the way to the other side of town, just so that I can take a quick run. And but I also want to remind you, since I've been a council member, there's been at least 2 occasions where I've had to ask my children to drop to the ground and crawl to the hallway because of the drive-bys that have happened just down the street, and we heard the gunshot and we heard the tires screech away from the block that I'm on. And I just want you all to just envision what that's like for a mother to have to tell her children. But I think more importantly, what is that like for children who grow up in neighborhoods like that? And I've thought about the impact on my own kids. You know, we try and process it and talk about it because I don't know what the long-term impacts are going to be on them. They've been chased in the middle of the night, well, not in the middle of the night, but 11 o'clock at night, when I've asked them to take out the garbage on a Wednesday evening because we failed to do it earlier that day. They've been chased down the driveway into the house by individuals who are really in need of mental health services. And if you recall, about 2 years ago, right before COVID hit, getting out of my car in my own driveway in front of my house, I was chased around the car by another individual who could not reason with me or have a conversation so that I could figure out what was going on. He was coming after me. And so this is the neighborhood that I live in, and this is the neighborhood that many of my residents, of course, live in, have experienced, and they're raising their children. I want to, you know, for those of you who don't know, only 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, a 13-year-old was shot to death. 13-year-old, a 13-year-old. And just yesterday, a 16-year-old was shot in the back. He survived, the 13-year-old did not. Currently, as I'm listening to the council and trying to stay engaged, I have helicopters outside of my house, and I can hear them speaking from the helicopter. They're whizzing around, looking for someone who is hiding in someone's house. And these are the conditions that my children are being raised in. A lot of families are raising their children in the same conditions, where we need additional resources and services, but where you know, that incredibly different from other places where I've gone to visit other family members, where you can hear a pin drop and their children can walk to the park across the street. Whereas yesterday, I was telling my son and his friend who was here not to even think about driving around the neighborhood, and not to even think about opening up the garage to lift weights, because they have a little workout area here in my house. That was absolutely completely forbidden, because this district is hot, hot, hot right now. And so I just want to put that out there, because those are my experiences right now. And these are the experiences of my children and their friends. And we're doing everything we can to try and turn this around, but it's not going to happen overnight. And so the idea of not expanding those opportunities or distributing housing opportunities for families where they can live in a quiet neighborhood, a neighborhood where it's rich in resources, it's unfathomable to me. And so I'm glad that we're looking at this, and I appreciate Jackie and Rachel and everyone else that has contributed to it. But I do think that we need additional time to put in place a policy that truly is going to give families a real fighting chance in the Bay Area, and especially here in San Jose. And I'm glad to hear Councilmember Cohen and Councilmember Mahan talk about, the lofty goals that they have of having, a great number of units built in their district. I applaud that. But I do want to say that it's easy to say things like that when your districts are very rich in resources and you haven't been impacted yet by some of the things that I'm living with. So I'm going to hold your feet to the fire on that one, because I think it would be fantastic for our families to grow up in the Almaden Valley. Blossom Hill, I think, has some issues as well, but to grow up in the Almaden Valley, to have access to those schools, and to grow up in North San Jose, what a fantastic opportunity. Can you imagine having those opportunities for families who have they've been shortchanged for a number of reasons, and to suddenly be able to open their front doors without the fear of someone gunning them down or having mistaken identity, as has happened, by the way, in the Mayfair area, where a young mama with 2 little girls was gunned down because of mistaken identity. Wrong place, wrong time. That just happened maybe 2 years into my term. And then a grandmother who was in her kitchen making fresh tortillas got caught up in between 2 gangs who were fighting it out. I mean, these are the things, like I said, that we're concerned about, that we worry when we get too close to the windows. Believe it or not, we're concerned about that, making sure that everything is always locked down, because we don't know if we're the next victim. And it's not I don't mean to, instill any sort of fear of living in this district. As I've said before, it's an unbelievable district, but it is a district that we have faced challenges, and we need to make sure that we provide families across the city opportunities to thrive, especially their children. So with that, I will support the motion, and thank you, Councilmember Perales, for adding the additional time to truly be proud of the housing policies that we're going to put in place that will last, probably to infinity, until someone else decides not to. But thank you again.
Thank you. Councilmember Perales?
Yeah, thank you. Mayor, I don't know if this addresses where you were going, but as you started bringing up I think the discrepancies maybe that could exist, I think the one flaw in the analysis is that the assumption is maybe that there's a lot of density of people living in the downtown core. And so,
well, that's part of it.
Yeah, which is not totally true. So, right. And right now, the downtown core, downtown proper, is smack dab in the middle of what would be a Category 3 there section.
Yeah.
I am completely willing to include within the motion something that allows, some exemptions for our downtown zoning, and not necessarily, maybe change categories or somehow, but I think I would give staff the time over this next 12 weeks as well to see how is it that we open up the downtown core, and not necessarily treat it the exact same as every other Category 3. So, and we do this, right? I mean, we do this time to time with other for other purposes, because we recognize the downtown core is different. And quite frankly, look, I would be completely for, other affordable housing projects, especially some high rises, right, coming into the downtown. So would that be comfortable with staff?
Yeah, I mean, we actually changed one of the categories. So there's a portion of Dearden that would have been in Category 3, and in our memo, we just moved it to a Category 2.
Okay.
So we don't.
If you think it's that simple as well, I think we might as well, being that we have a little bit of time, right? I think we can put some thought into it. I would be comfortable with that as well. The idea, Mayor, would be that we open up the downtown zoning, right, for some more opportunities.
Right.
So
as the seconder, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And I imagine there may be a census tract or two that still would stay in Category 3, but I would just, I don't know. I still don't know why Nagley Park is Category 3. Do we have any idea how that happened?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question. Could you repeat that again?
Yeah, no, Negley Park is somehow in category 3. I know this is, getting into the weeds, but I think we all kind of looked at this map and we could all kind of look at neighborhoods and say, how did they get in there? And Negley Park is one that Councilmember Suarez pointed to, which is just south of Santa Clara Street, of course. And I know if you went on the other side of 280, you'd be in Spartan Keys, which I know pretty well to be a much lower resource neighborhood than Negley Park. You go north of Santa Clara, you end up in other, I used to live in a gang hotspot 4 years ago. It's since changed, but clearly it's just odd. And so,
well, again, because we're looking at these bigger areas, so because we're looking at census tracts that are made up of a bunch of blocks, then I can imagine because of the surrounding neighborhoods of Nagley Park, that's what's dragging Nagley Park into that area.
yeah, maybe the president San Jose State, I don't know, maybe they're counting students in the income calculation, I don't know. It's just, I'm guessing if we all thought about it long and hard, we'd probably come up with slightly different lines. Because I can think of some very low-income neighborhoods just on the other side of Coyote Creek that are, for whatever reason, not indicated. So anyway, I know we could discuss that endlessly. I won't take up any more time with that. I guess I just wanted to, first, just to understand the Diridon consequences. So there won't be any constraint, for example, on Google building their 1,000 units of affordable housing.
No, that's exactly what the recommendation we made. We saw that there was a portion there. It made no sense to us, so we clearly identified it in the memo that it would have been a category 3, but we were moving it into a category 2 so that there would be no constraint.
Appreciate you catching that. Then at the very start of the presentation, you said, hey, we looked at category 1 parcels to try to understand, is this going to drive up the cost of building affordable housing? I appreciate you making that inquiry. And your conclusion was there's no difference in cost, but undoubtedly in category 1 neighborhoods, much lower density and in terms of zoning and so forth, and that zoning would tend to be reflected in the land value. And I know what I'm hoping we're going to build with affordable housing is pretty high densities. So first, did we sort of adjust for density when we considered land value?
So what we did, so I worked with our developer that has 3 sites that are in our category 1 neighborhoods, and the way that we have found an average cost is a per door kind of concept, right? So, obviously you can price per acre, but a lot of times in affordable housing, when we're talking about the cost, we look at a per door cost, and so what we looked at was their average per door. And when we reviewed it that way, it was actually coming out a little bit under the average that we've had historically, just even in our most recent affordable housing cost study.
Okay.
The per door was coming out lower.
Okay, that's great. So that does account for the density. And I guess where I'm also going with this is, if we're really embracing this, it means as a council, we also have to embrace the fact that densities are going to increase considerably in an awful lot of neighborhoods where they're not used to seeing density. And I think we need to have our eyes wide open about this. I fully support it. I think it's important for us to do. But I can recall a debate we had just last year over a school district that didn't want to build density, didn't want to build affordable. And this discussion, basically went to a place where basically the school district got what they wanted, or the developer got what they wanted, and they got essentially market rate housing. The school districts are going to be a key source of this land in these neighborhoods. It's going to be school districts, and the school districts are going to be coming to us with their developer partners saying, we need to build single-family housing because this is the most profitable way to do it, or maybe we need to build townhomes, and it's going to be market rate because otherwise our budget's going belly up. And we need to be really clear on the council that when we intend to build affordable housing in high-resource neighborhoods, that means, yes, we tell school districts, yes, you must build higher density affordable housing. I think it is, I know this is a policy we're working on now, and I know we're trying very collaboratively to work with our school districts, but I think we need to be eyes open about this reality. And because I think that if we just go through this policy exercise and we don't follow through on the densities and some of the other implications of our decisions, we're not going to get what ultimately I think we all aspire to see, which is affordable housing built in a way that is truly equitable and provides great opportunity for all of our families. I also am concerned about some potential unintended consequences here around what it might do in some neighborhoods where we say essentially this is going to be largely market rate development in this neighborhood, at least with regard to city funding and assuming county follows our lead, with regard to displacement. And I think we need to have eyes wide open about the risk that we're going to see primarily market rate development going into neighborhoods where the people who are going in to live in those apartments or those condos don't look anything like the neighborhood that surrounds them. And I think we need to appreciate the fact there's going to be some tension between our desires for greater integration and our desires to avoid displacement. And this is not going to be easy. So I support going forward, but I do it with fear and trembling because I think this is going to be hard. And I'm also concerned that we may get to a place where we're finding that we are driving up the cost of building the affordable housing, and I know that undermines our efforts to get more housing built. So I appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this. I think this is really hard. I'm going to support going forward. I look forward to hearing what we can next year when we get an update, and hopefully what we're going to learn is lots of builders are ready to go, and we're ready to fund them. So thank you for all the great work. Let's vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Peralez,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are going on to item 8. I believe we're on item 8.3, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that is the approval of the loan commitment to First Community Housing for the McAvoy Apartments. And I wanted to thank certainly First Community Housing and Jeff and their team, and I also want to thank our partners, SV at Home. Leslie Corsilio, I believe, is stepping down this week as Executive Director of SV at Home for her partnership on Measure E. This is $20 million, I think, our biggest commitment, and it's great to see it moving forward. Jackie?
Okay. I'm actually, yes, thank you, Mayor and
Oh,
Council.
Rachel,
Rachel Vanderveen. I'm getting really comfortable here in my seat, and I'll just keep going on this one.
Great.
So I'm actually joined this evening by Banu San and Stephen Jackson on Zoom. So they are available for questions, but I'll go ahead and provide you with the presentation.
Oh, forgive me, Rachel. I need to call 8.4 as well, is that right?
Okay.
You're
Yes,
doing a
please.
presentation on both?
Yeah, we'd like to hear them.
Okay, then we'll call 8.4, which is the loan commitment to Algarve Apartments, also known as the Dahlia. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So this is kind of an interesting decision that you have in front of you just following our citing policy conversation, because we are here to fund and make a funding commitment to 2 affordable housing developments. These developments will provide a total of 315 new affordable homes, contributing to our combined effort to meet the Mayor and Council's goal to build 10,000 new affordable homes in our city. It will provide 136 permanent supportive housing units to address the needs of our homeless residents, and it will ensure we are housing our most vulnerable residents by funding extremely low-income housing as a part of these 2 developments. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize. Okay. So first, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the McAvoy development. So this development is located on McAvoy Street. It will provide 222 apartments for vulnerable residents, including unhoused individuals, offering a mix of studios and 1-bedroom apartments for a range of income levels. McAvoy Apartments is the first phase of 2 affordable rental housing developments that you can see here in this rendering. It's located on a 1.13 acre infill site that is immediately adjacent to the planned Google San Jose campus. It's just a few blocks south of the Diridon station and 1 block from the Guadalupe River Trail. This funding commitment will be the first funding commitment made by our city to a high-rise affordable housing development in San Jose. It will provide dense affordable housing located in an area that we have identified as a priority for our city to build affordable housing, as we have made a goal of providing 20% of all the housing in the Diridon Station area as affordable to moderate and low-income households. The McAvoy development applied for city funding under the 2021 Notice of Funding Availability, issued in July this year. We actually just recently released a very limited NOFA as we were waiting for the siting policy to come forward. And this location, or this project, moved forward because it was actually located in the Diridon Station area, which was an area we identified as a specific place we were looking, we want to fund affordable housing. We are requesting a total loan commitment of $20 million to this development, which meets our 125,000 unit per, or 1,000 unit limit per unit threshold. Additional sources of funding will include tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bond of over $75 million, and a Measure A county funding commitment of approximately $31 million. There's 90 permanent supportive housing units that will be sponsored by the Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Vouchers Program and the project-based vouchers for at least 20 years. Approval of this commitment will allow the developer to move forward with an application to CIDLAC on September 9th. So the timing of your commitment this evening is very important for them to be able to successfully apply in the next round coming up very quickly in September. And next, I would also like to describe to you the Algarve Apartments development that we're bringing forward this evening as well. The Algarve Apartments will be a co-developer partnership between Reed Community Partners and Allied Housing. This will be Reed Community Partners' first development in our city. They have been working with the City of San Jose, the county, and the Housing Authority to really kind of figure out how to provide the types of housing that we're looking for here in San Jose. Excuse me. This development is located at the northwest corner of East Santa Clara Street and North 24th, and will offer a range of income levels, including extremely low income and very low income households. There is a total of, there's 90 affordable and then 1 manager's unit for a total of 91 units. 46 of these units will be set aside for permanent supportive housing to provide housing for individuals and families who have disabling conditions, as well as being formerly homeless individuals. This development contributes to the much needed affordable housing and designed and is consistent with the Roosevelt Park Urban Village Plan. The street level exterior of the project will feature a large mural which will pay tribute to the deep Portuguese and Mexican heritage of this neighborhood. The Algarve Apartments development applied for city funding under the Notice of Funding Availability issued in 2018. So this is one that was actually applied a couple of years ago and now is ready to move forward with funding at this point in time. A loan request of $10.5 million of this development also is consistent with our $125,000 unit limit, while leveraging $11 million in county Measure A funds and over $30 million in tax-exempt housing revenue bonds. There are 46 permanent supportive housing units in this development, which will also be supported by the Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing, or VASH program, and additionally some project-based vouchers. This project is also applying to SIDLAC on September 9th, and so again, your decision tonight is critical in having them be able to move forward with a resolution from the City Council stating your commitment to funding this new affordable housing development. So as we conclude, I just want to take a moment to really thank several key players in bringing these developments forward to you tonight. I'd like to thank Banu San and Stephen Jackson from the Housing Department team, who have worked very hard to prepare all of these, get these projects ready for their SIDLAC application and for your decision tonight. I'd also like to recognize Sophie Rubin from First Community Housing, Scott Reed from Reed Community, and John White from Allied Housing, who've all been served as project managers for these developments, and the entire team from the county's Office of Supportive Housing, who is always a critical partner in doing this together. Doing this work takes a tremendous team, and I am thankful for all the dedicated, passionate people who have been working on bringing these projects forward tonight. So this concludes our presentation, and we're available for any questions that you might have.
I'd like to move approval.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to approve on both projects.
Yeah, both.
Let's go to the public.
Alex Shore.
Hey y'all, Alex Shore here with Catalyze SV. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for letting me speak a little tonight. Haven't had a chance to have Catalyze SV members look at the Algarve project. We did look at the McAvoy project from First Community Housing, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's the highest scoring project that Catalyze SV has ever evaluated. It got, I believe, a 4.6 out of 5 among our members. And that's because First Community Housing makes some really huge investments in our community and some really great steps. They provide free transit passes to every single one of their residents. They build their buildings LEED Platinum, the highest level of environmental sustainability. So even affordable housing developers can add in things to make sustainability, transportation, and benefits doable. So when we come to you and talk to you about projects, or developers come to you and say, oh no, that's too expensive, we can't do that, please keep in mind that there are developers like First Community Housing that do this as their business, as their practice. So we hope you'll keep that in mind as you go forward. And of course, we hope you'll pass tonight's loans to keep these important projects going forward. I personally live right near the McAvoy project and will be so excited to see 13 stories of affordable housing right in Midtown near Huron Station. And on top of that, they are building using mass timber. And so when you hear from developers now, know that they can build taller buildings using potentially more environmentally friendly and cheaper and quicker construction material in the form of mass timber. And the state has increased the amount of mass timber come July 1st this year from a 6-story maximum up to 18 stories now. Can you believe that? 18 stories, we can build mass timber buildings in San Jose and throughout California now. So kudos to First Community Housing for leading the way on mass timber, and let's keep up those kinds of construction materials that make development quicker and easier and better, which fits all the goals that I know you council members care very deeply about. Thank you so much.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. Boy, I learned a lot on that last item. I've been talking all these months about mixed income. These affordable housing site policies, I guess, is how what you're calling mixed income. I'll have to learn how to shift my language a bit. I was already doing that. I was already trying to offer my ideas really softly, as if you guys already knew these things, and I just needed to remind yourselves of these things. But, I really question the validity of these formulas that you're using, as Maya Esparza has said. A lot of people are asking questions. It's imperative that city government just learns to explain things well and talks in real academic terms and honest terms about the future of these projects and does not play pussyfooting games or elitist games. It's vital. For this area, Google, you're talking about affordable housing in terms of moderate and low income, and that's supposed to be commendable. Maybe it is for this one project, but you got to have extremely low income housing things in the Google area. And the formulas of mixed income are so simple and understandable and beautiful that you really need their help to help describe the future of these affordable housing ideas, siting ideas, unless these siting ideas are specifically meant to subvert the mixed income process, which I'm really questioning at this time. I don't want to, but I hope you're not doing it for those reasons. That I know you can be, because these are the ideas of equity and reimagine we're talking about. You're practicing them to a degree. I hope you're not messing this up. And man, let's get this good. And let's do this well, people. Thank you.
Tessa Woodmansee.
Thank you, Tessa Woodmansee. Well, the McAvoy project is in my neighborhood too, and it's borders on Park Avenue as well. And there is a problem right there in terms of the access of not being able to cross Park Avenue properly. I don't know if they put it in. I've complained about this at different meetings, but they really need a crosswalk there. And I don't think it really got done. I imagine it didn't, because it wouldn't surprise me that they didn't do it, because we're not really creating walkable and bikeable neighborhoods. We say we are, but we're not. And then, I saw the same thing that happened at the development on Stockton and Julian. There it is, and they were supposed to really fix that corner on Stockton and Julian, and it wouldn't be a pork chop anymore. It's still that way, and it's still dangerous. And then, of course, Julian is very dangerous. No bike lane, no ADA approval. And so when we're building these projects, we really don't demand enough of our developers. And even to say that they support public transit, well, our public transit is so bad and people don't even want to take it because it doesn't feel safe to be in our transit. So, and then the bicycle infrastructure is not there. Like I've been saying before, that even, San Carlos is really bad in regards to bicycling, and that we'll do it in little sections, like as if we, have a bicycle for one block right in front of our development, and then the rest of the block isn't that way. And so the whole street needs to be part of their responsibility versus just the, little thing they say in front of them. And so that's one issue. So
Todd Williams.
I've become reluctant to even talk because I know you guys are going to vote for it anyways, but I heard many people refer to these buildings as projects, and concentrating poverty into a high density building is reverting back to the failed project style housing that we abandoned. We need to learn from the past. Thank you.
Caller 5140.
Oh, I thought you'd never call on me. Want to just give a shout out to Paul Soto, man. Keep up the good work. Don't quit. But once again, you want to start cramming people into an area. The guy said it best in the last call: projects. And how many people are you going to cram into one area? There's not enough police or fire. Carrasco, for God's sakes, Carrasco, city council member, she can't get enough police action in her area with the psychos and the gangbangers and everything. If she's having a hard time living here, you're going to cram more people in? What are you people thinking? I mean, we got the same thing in Detroit District 9. That's what I like to call Pam Foley's Detroit District 9. We got bums sleeping in people's cars. They can't go to work in the morning. We got these skells walking around stealing packages off of porches. But you want more people? Is there enough electricity? There's no natural gas anymore because that's illegal. Yeah, we don't want any natural gas because it's bad. Give me a break. Everyone on the city council goes and eats Chinese food. Well, how do you think they cook that food so quick for you with a gas stove and a wok? God bless them. Anyway, no, there's not enough police people, not enough fire department coverage, not enough ambulance, not enough electricity, not enough gas, not enough water, not enough property, not enough parking spaces, even though you guys like to get your tape measure out and measure how much, you can cram cars into one neighborhood. Not enough places to put your garbage cans out. What are you people thinking? Once again, it's a bunch of sophomores in college that work at their father's real estate company. That's what the city council is. That's what it is. It's
Brian Prescott.
Hello, good evening. My name is Brian Prescott. I'm a member of South Bay YIMBY. I will respectfully ask you to vote yes on this project. I think it's an easy win, if for no other reason. It's a big, tall housing project right next to a train station. That makes it really easy for people who live there to take transit to work. You're also close to downtown. There's a lot of jobs there, and there's a lot of bus lines there. It's an easy win. I think the mass timber thing is actually really cool. That is absolutely getting us towards the future of housing construction. I think it would show a lot of really neat leadership on how we can make a future here if we have projects like this one. Please ask you to vote yes. Thank you very much.
Paul Soto.
Yeah, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. First of all, I'd like to extend my gratitude to Mayor Ricardo. You could have limited the talk with respect to these issues, and you didn't. And so I want to acknowledge that publicly. Thank you. Secondly, with respect to the housing, you're going to do what you're going to do anyway. I was a bit naive to think that my experience and my history and would have some type of impact. And what I'm seeing and what you're convincing me of is that it will not. And that's something that I'm going to have to accept personally. But with respect to this housing development, I think it's a move in the right direction that Blair has been encouraging for about a year and a half in terms of mixed income project. So I think it's aligned with that. But within the overall topic of housing, I'm very sad, and I know what to expect, and that's a harsh reality, but I will not give up on my belief that there is some justice and some.
Back to council.
Thank you. Returning to council, is there any other comment or question? Let's vote.
Jimenez. Yes. Perales.
Yes.
Cohen.
Aye.
Carrasco.
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Esparza.
Yes.
Arenas.
Yes.
Foley.
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
I'd like to point out, we just unanimously approved the construction of 315 homes, 136 are permanent supportive housing, homeless, without any discussion or questions. That's not bad. All right, we're on to open forum.
Robin Romer.
Good evening, Robin Romer here from the Orchards community to talk about Shortcut, the Shortcut extension. And I get it, you probably don't want to hear about Shortcut right now, even less than I want to talk about it. But unfortunately, to stop talking about Shortcut isn't my call, it's yours. And as you know, we as a community have made several attempts to take Shortcut off the city's to-do list. Yet the city council staff, you insist on keeping Shortcut on your to-do list and therefore ours, making late night public comments like this one necessary. Based on public records, staff has spent over $1 million on Shortcut already. And that is just on external consultants, not even including their own staff time. Let that sink in. City staff spend $1 million mostly to argue with and fight their own citizens. We, the community, have been very restrained. We did not spend $1 million in the last 2 years, not even close. And over the last 10 months, we've acted with even more restraint than before, trying to solve this amicably. But the longer this drags on, the less viable it unfortunately becomes for us to remain this restrained. If we don't settle our ongoing lawsuit soon, we need to mobilize the community more broadly and more publicly than we are doing right now. That is unfortunately just the way it is. Now, US City Council could obviously and easily spend another $1 million to keep fighting the community, outspending us $100 to 1 for another year or 3 or 5. And that seems to be staff's intent. But do you and the people of San Jose really think that's a good use of money? Again, none of this is necessary if we're able to settle and move forward without Shortcut. To close, I want to emphasize that if it happens to be the intent of this council to cross Shortcut off your to-do list, it would be very helpful if you could find a timely way to make that decision and to communicate that to us before we restart any further public outreach. May I suggest September 14th for that? Thank you.
Roland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for your service. So I'd like to very briefly follow up with a comment that staff made at the conclusion of a T&E yesterday afternoon, that somehow they would be coming back to Council with an MOU with the High Speed Rail Authority sometime in October, presumably, I guess, to help us with great operations on Monterey Highway. My question to Council is why anyone would consider trusting these kinds of projects to people who, believe it or not, mistakenly specified a 30-foot clearance for vehicular traffic. 30 foot is for trains, it's not for vehicles or trucks. These are the same people who, as you may recall, studied an alignment between San Jose and Merced, which, to be honest with you, if you know where Merced is and where LA is geographically challenging. But the reason they did that is because their vision was to link San Francisco to Sacramento via Gilroy and Merced. And I'm going to leave that to you. And by the way, this is how we ended up with the Pacheco Pass and the $12 billion tunnel. But in closing, my advice this evening to staff and to council is to be patient and wait for the outcome of the ongoing Caltrain governing discussions. And then look for potential partnerships which are more likely to serve San Jose's long-term transportation needs, including high-speed rail between Gilroy and San Francisco via San Jose Airport. Thank you and good night.
Paul Soto.
Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. Last summer, there was a phone call that was made to me. And I stayed on that phone call for 8 hours. It was literally an 8-hour phone call. And during that phone call, there was a threat that was made to my life. I confronted somebody that I had suspected was, at least had knowledge of that threat. And that threat was made in regard to, I was told that I was too confident. I was told that they didn't know if I was an adult.
Paul? Okay, we lost Paul. Blair Beekman?
Hi. Thanks for the words of Paul Soto tonight. Thanks for the meeting. You know, I'm sorry if I've come on too strong. Obviously, I have things to learn about what you'll be talking about the future of mixed income ideas as. I worry about the ideas of these affordable housing projects as the ideas of the Republic, as opposed to, you know, good academic ideas. I hope we can use good academic ideas in these future projects. We can be free and comfortable to do that. So I don't want to be hostile. Good luck how we can do this. We can all learn a lot at this time. It's important. This is what we need to be learning at this time in our lives and what this fall is about. The practices of good open democracy. We're offering our good ideas this time. Hopefully we're getting out of a really secretive, warlike June because of, you know, really difficult issues of May. And it's just nice that we're talking, and that's so important towards our openness and good that I think we can really do this fall. So thank you, and all these efforts I've been offering, and you guys have as well, and it's really nice to be connecting in that way. To offer a few words from public comment, from previous public comment, to finish my public comment about the Google issue, for as much as, you know, we can make good connections from the east side to the Google, future of Google's village in the future, you know, these are questions of a national security state and the future of our national security state. We have to offer responsible practices for this project, and that's open public policy ideas. That's good democracy. That isn't secrecy. That isn't more war. Good luck on how we work on these issues. Thanks a lot to Paul Soto, and I hope we can make it back here, and good luck to ourselves this fall. Thank you.
Caller 5140. Press *6 to unmute. Okay, I'm going to move on to Tessa Woodmansey.
Thank you. I'm supposed to get 2 minutes. I don't know. It's not, you want to reset the clock? Okay, good. Thank you. So I guess, you know, we've been fighting in our neighborhood not to have a hotel. And we successfully stopped the Victorian in our neighborhood becoming part of a hotel. We did that. But, you know, the plan, which was that destroyed our neighborhood and has created such stresses in our community, is that, you know, you went ahead and changed the general plan without notifying us. And so this is where the root of the whole issue of opportunity housing is, that people are up in arms over not understanding what's going on in our general plan. And so anyway, so what happened is that, you know, we've been fighting the hotel, and the developer, you know, proposed housing, and then that didn't go through either because it's too close to polluting neighborhood. And we never, you know, really dealt with that general plan change. That wasn't really notified to us, that we would get more commercial development in our neighborhood when we're already a community at risk. We are a community at risk. We have a high pollution level from the diesel emissions. We're across from a bus depot. We're by the Caltrain diesel. You know, we're by the highways, the trucks of the Central Cement. So at some level, I was happy that we weren't getting the housing, because there was going to be a lot of automobile parking that was in there. So now we're looking at, we need to really do a zero fossil fuel development. And what that includes is that it really changing our urban land use to protect human health as reparations for the destruction that you've done to our neighborhood and well-being. We need to change our urban land use to protect human health. And what it is, it's the Eat, Grow, Learn centers that Allery Middlebrook is working on, and saying we need to have a networked thing that brings zero carbon footprint jobs and to...
Robert Aguirre.
Yeah, Robert Agree again. I feel for Paul Soto. It seems like he keeps getting cut off. I don't know what's going on there, but Paul, if you're still listening, please hang in there. We need your voice in the city. So I'm going to talk again about the idea that we need to have representation for people that are unhoused. There's easily over 5,000 that we have recognized through the point in time count. People that are living outdoors, living outside of shelters. And there's a lot more people that we would consider to be unhoused simply because they're living in areas that were not designed for human habitation, or they're living several families at one location. We've experienced that, and I'm sure, Mayor, you recall during the last flood, the number of people that lost their housing and they had no way of getting any kind of relief because they were not on the lease, because there were families that were doubling and tripling up. And I'm sure that the people that are representing D7 and D8, what is that? Anyway, the districts on the east side, you understand what this is about, because it's very common that happens over there. And we have a lot of people that are about to become unhoused if we can't solve this problem with the moratorium that's about to end. And we're going to have a lot of very angry people that are living in the streets that are not going to be very appreciative about not having representation when that happens. And right now they're housed and they probably don't think about it, but the time will come and they will be out in the streets, and there will be organizing going on, I guarantee you, and we will bring this back. So please jump on this. Thank you.
Okay, caller 5140, let's try you again.
Oh, this Zoom. I mean, do something about this Zoom. I got good phones, good computers. This Zoom is terrible. But anyway, I'm just focusing on the city council. I don't appreciate the lecture you guys gave us last week with those anti-vaxxers, those vaxnostics, as I call them, disrupted your meeting. I mean, they're just disruptors. They were just pushing back on you guys. They were peaceful protesters, right? They were disruptors. And you guys gave a lecture on how you guys had to go hide for an hour because some people didn't have a mask on. Oh, no. And then, wait a minute, we couldn't do the flag raising ceremony. You people. Wait, did you have to go get some clean shorts? You guys pee your pants when those people protested? My God, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves. It was a peaceful protest. How the hell did it take an hour for you guys to go in your office and cry your eyes out because some people didn't agree with your mandatory paper? You got to show your papers when you go into a city-owned building. Papers, please. What does that sound like? And then you guys had the nerve to try to twist it around that it was white supremacy and racism and all this. Don't make me puke. Everybody had a great accent, whether it was from Asia or south of the border or Eastern Europe. I couldn't believe how many different accents I heard, and I was pumped every time I heard it. It wasn't the rednecks that you guys tried to make it out to be. It was people who may have even voted for it. It was people who may have.
So go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the support, Robert and the others. Sometimes I don't get any money. I don't get any support. I'm poor, and I live very humble means. And I do what I do only because I feel an obligation to my ancestors. That when I speak, it is times that I hope that it is their voice that you hear, but sometimes my anger and frustration and my actual fear, my fear of the policies that you're centering and the 5, 10, 15-year impact it will have on my people. That is what I fear most. Thank you for the meeting today.
Final speaker, back to council.
Now the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.